up. Now, if you've not been here, Thursday and Friday, let me see your hands up. Where are the remaining people? Oh, yeah, people should clap for those ones that have been here since Thursday.
I think there's something we used to do back in the uni. I don't know if you can still remember. We used to say, Atama.
Shall we go to the same school?
Oh, sorry. If they don't do one for your own school, I don't know. Atama.
Okay.
Atama. Atama. Yeah. Atama.
I'm waiting. I used to hear that thing.
So you don't know the name of the soup?
No wonder
What
I'm
is the
getting
name of the
hungry.
school?
They are here. They are saying Atama. My stomach is doing.
Atama. Atama. Atago. Atama. Labago. Aperina. Aperina. Aperina.
Wait. If you're like me, yes, you're probably wondering, what school did this guy go to? Abe what? We're just going to move forward. I'll act like that didn't just happen. All right, so we're starting today with the keynote. Actually, today is jam-packed. If you've been here Thursday and Friday, just know that today is the day. The D-Day. Is the what? So we're going to be starting with a keynote from Minko Gechev. I had to use my accent for that. From Minko Gechev. And he's going to be talking about making a difference with open source software. Contributing to the open source community, you're sharing your work freely with the world, and I'm sure most of us know this already. But this art can change millions of lives while helping us gain expertise and visibility. So in this talk, Minko will be looking into how we can all change the world and ourselves with open source software. What are we here for? What are we here for? Damn, Larry. Let's go fight.
I don't know. You don't know what we are here for.
What are we here for?
Huh? Anyway?
Open source. You are not confident. What are we here for?
You guys are not sure of what you are here for. Open source.
They don't sabi me. What are we here for?
Open source.
The guy say, hey, what if I cover me? What are we here for?
Open Source Festival.
Open Source Festival. What are we here for?
Open Source.
What are we here for?
Open source.
What are we here for? That guy check his bag first, say, which tag am I on? Which tag am I holding now? You go to a lot of events, Abby. All right, so. All right, so I'm just going to give a bio of Minko. Minko is a developer relations lead at Google, where he works on open source technologies. Before joining Google, he was a co-founder and CTO of Rhyme.com, which in 2019 was acquired by Coursera. I want to lower the. All right, so please put your hands together as I call on Minko Gechev.
Give it up, give it up.
Minko?
I think it's a virtual.
Everybody's looking behind. Say, everybody's looking behind. Say,
hello, everyone. I lead developer relations for the Angular team at Google.
Yes.
Today, in this presentation, I'm going to share with you how you can make a difference. Hello, everyone. My name is Minko Gechev. I lead developer relations for the Angular team at Google. Today, in this presentation, I'm going to share with you how you can make a difference with open source software. To make a difference, we need to have some kind of impact. We're going to frame this impact into the context of our professional growth. To grow professionally, we'll focus on three aspects. For most people, to feel satisfied with our career, we need to be able to make an impact that we find valuable to the world. Contributing to something bigger than ourselves gives us a sense of purpose. At the same time, for most of us, working for free is not really an option. We need to make money so we can make a living, have food, pay rent, and entertain ourselves. To not burn out over time, we need to work on things that make us happy. If our work feels like play, we'll have a happier, more fulfilling, and less stressful life. People have been thinking how to find a fulfilling, satisfying career for a while. In fact, in Japan, they have a term, ikigai, which translates to a reason for being. There are many blog posts and articles that talk about how we can find our ikigai. Often, a reason for being is represented as the intersection of 4 circles. Finding what we're good at, what we love to do, what the world needs, and what we can get paid for. Sounds simple, right? Find what we're good at and enjoy doing, get paid for it, and make sure the world needs it. This way, we'll most certainly have a satisfying life at work. Well, if it was that simple, I have ended my presentation right here, and we'll have all been able to have the perfect career that suits us and makes a difference in the world. Real world is way different than this simple model though. There are a lot of variables, and people are all born in different contexts with different trade-offs. Let us look at this graph again through a different lens this time. For example, we need to find something we're good at. But how to get good at something in the first place? It is not trivial to become a professional engineer, a doctor, or an artist. Even though talent can help here, it can just speed up the process without taking us all the way to the destination. What can you get paid for? Well, I don't know. There are so many things we could be doing, and we don't really know what are all the options out there. We all grow in a particular context, and it is not easy to know what's outside of our immediate circle. What do you love? What are even the options? I know I love doing karate, but I wouldn't have known that if there was no karate dojo where I grew up. Very similar to software engineering. If I was not lucky enough to have a passionate high school teacher in software engineering, today I'll have been a police officer. It's another great professional opportunity, but the point is that if it wasn't my high school teacher, I'll have not even known that software engineering and being a software engineer is even possible. What does the world need? Who knows what? If you all knew, we would all have been startup billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. Let's ignore all of this for a second. Just forget about all the ambiguities and look at an ideal scenario. Just for a second, we can assume that we're very lucky and thrive in the best environment possible. For example, we're born in Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, in a family of professional software engineers. We go to school at Stanford University. That's one of the best places to study computer science in the world. They teach us all the essentials we'll need in our professional career and also give us a great, constructive and competitive environment. After Stanford, it will not be too hard to pass the Google interview process because we'll have been perfectly prepared in our algorithms and data structure classes. We spent a few years at Google working on a popular project that got traction. We're satisfied with the impact we're making and also with our paycheck. With Stanford and Google on our resume, it's very easy to raise venture capital, so we become a startup founder and change the world with our product. Here is how our resume could look like. A Stanford graduate, specialized in distributed computing and programming language design. Software engineer at Google with impressive accomplishments. Expert in functional programming, distributed systems, and programming language design. This sounds fascinating, right? Often in the movies that make it seem like people who go down this path are just very talented superhumans. But let us look how lucky we need to be for this to really happen. First, we need to have the crazy chance to be born in Silicon Valley. Second, we need to be extremely privileged to be in a family that values education and can direct us to software engineering. This is a skill that is very highly valued in the world. We are lucky that Stanford University is next door, and our parents helped us prepare for admission by sending us to the right schools. At Stanford, we are lucky to get the best computer science education in the world. And we're so very fortunate to be able to afford the fees, which are tens of thousands of dollars a year. There we have the chance to be surrounded by passionate people in a very constructive environment. People who can help us grow our network. Institutions such as Google and Stanford provide certain guarantees that their employees or students pass a certain bar. All this just validates our skills. Notice how many times I said the words chance, lucky, or fortunate. A lot of times. I did a quick, very rough calculation to see what is the probability for this path to happen, for all these circumstances to be on our side. The number I got is this. About 1 out of 10 million people gets that chance. What about the rest of us? If we rely on being fortunate to get down the happy path, to make a difference and have a satisfying career, we better be very lucky. I didn't go this path, but I'll tell you more about myself in a little bit. Before that, let us have a look at an alternative scenario, using open source to find our ikigai. First, let us clarify what open source means. Open source is denoting software for which the original source code is made freely available and may be redistributed and modified. Notice the original source code is made freely available. That's the key word. Many people I've talked to think about contributing to open source or open source itself as free work. That's true to an extent, but there is so much more to it. There is a global network of software enthusiasts on GitHub. People are sharing code for free and constantly exchanging ideas in a very cooperative, competitive, and usually constructive environment. Let us explore how we can use open source and GitHub more specifically to find our ikigai. First, what do you love? Well, GitHub offers you to explore the topics of the projects out there. For example, if you have interest in programming language design, you can explore all the different compiler projects. If you're interested in bioengineering or medicine, feel free to explore all the projects about COVID-19. All these projects are very dense and concentrated bodies of knowledge where you can learn a ton. If you want to explore any of the topics further, there is Wikipedia, which is another free resource with very open collaboration model. Next, let us just explore what we can get paid for. Most large tech companies are already on GitHub developing open source. Having a peek at one of the organizations, Google for example, you can see that it holds about 2,000 projects. Google engineers are getting paid to build all these projects, so there is definitely an opportunity if Google is spending so much money on that. For example, I'm now getting paid for contributing to Angular, which is one of Google's open source projects. As an open source contributor, you will not get paid immediately. But I, for example, got hired at Google thanks to similar work in the open source community. Open source also covers what the world needs. The popular projects on GitHub are often connected to what people find valuable. A great example is the Linux kernel. It is used by billions of devices around the world. So open source helps us discover good opportunities that allow us to grow our knowledge and make a difference to the world by contributing to them. Let us explore how open source can help us build our skill set further and grow our profile. I mentioned the plethora of resources already available on GitHub. These are all free resources. You can look at the source code of a project and learn different coding techniques and algorithms. This by itself is already a huge amount of concentrated knowledge. Another thing that open source offers is hands-on practice and validation with world's greatest experts. For example, Kelsey Hightower, he is an engineering director at Google. He has made plenty of contributions to the Kubernetes community. Sarah Drasner is also an engineering director at Google. Sarah was part of the Vue team and now she's managing the whole web department at Google, including Angular. Sir Tim Berners-Lee is the creator of the internet. Do you know what is common between all of these people? Well, they are all on GitHub. And you can work with them. You can work with them no matter where you are. You just need a computer and internet connection. Sir Tim Berners-Lee, for example, leads a project called Solid, where he explores different models on the internet with decentralized data ownership. You can contribute to his project and your code will be reviewed by the creator of the internet. Tim Berners-Lee will be your coworker just for a day. Isn't that fascinating? So do you remember the original resume of John Doe, who was born in Silicon Valley, went to Stanford, worked at Google? Let us compare it with the resume of Jane Doe, a hypothetical open source developer. She worked on different projects she was passionate about and made a difference with them. For example, she is interested in the Linux kernel and she improved the performance of the NVIDIA drivers with X%, making a difference in the whole world, because Linux is already used on billions of devices. Her pull request was reviewed by Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux. Jane also worked side by side with Tim Berners-Lee on Solid, developing a truly decentralized data ownership model for the internet. Jane grew her skill set, worked with some of the brightest software engineers, and made a difference to the whole world from her bedroom just by pushing code to GitHub. Now let me share with you a way more modest story, but still a validation that what I just talked about is not a fantasy. I'm currently somewhere around here, in Telegraph Hill in San Francisco. But originally I'm from a place far away, actually about 10,000 kilometers away. I was born in Trujan, a town with about 20,000 people in Bulgaria, right in the mountains. As I mentioned earlier, I was very lucky to have a teacher in high school who was very passionate about software development, and he helped me to get started. After that, I went to study computer science in Sofia University, and I remember there in Sofia spending countless of hours in the local cafe just looking at different projects on GitHub. I was contributing to Angular daily in whichever forms I was finding possible. For example, blogging, pushing code as code patches, Stack Overflow answers, libraries, applications, and so on. The Angular team members, Google engineers, were reviewing my code, and this was a way to mentor me. They were pretty much mentoring me this way. This way I received mentorship from world-class specialists, just by being in Bulgaria and they being in Silicon Valley. Having invested that much time into the Angular community, I found a gap. I found something which allowed me to contribute further. Discovered an opportunity to develop a tool for static code analysis of Angular applications called Cololizer. The Angular team was already familiar with my open source work, and they saw Cololizer as an opportunity for the project. Google adopted it internally and also introduced Cololizer as part of the official tooling for Angular. As of today, Cololizer has over 101 million downloads. Together with other contributions I made to open source projects such as Angular, Go with My Linter Revive, and others, I got to meet the president of Bulgaria, who awarded me for my work. So this is an example how doing work for free with open source could actually impact your personal life and also allow you to have an impact in the world. You know, when talking to people about open source, I often hear the following myths. The first one is that it's too hard to contribute to open source projects. The second one is that nobody really cares about my personal contributions. The third one is that I'm not good enough and people will laugh at my code. And the last one is, why would I do work for free? Well, let us look at the first one. It's too hard. Well, yeah, it's pretty hard if you want to fix a memory leak in the Linux kernel and you don't have any C experience. The good news is that you don't have to do that. You can just start small. Start with small contributions by fixing a typo, for example. The Angular documentation has a contribution guide to lead you step by step into areas where we would like to get people's support. Looking more carefully, you can find that we'll appreciate folks adding keywords to improve our search results. That's a pretty simple and straightforward contribution, just adding a word to a topic. If you're facing difficulties using Git or GitHub, there are plenty of getting started tutorials that will help you and guide you through the process. As an example, let us look at my very first contribution to the Angular project. I spent 2-3 hours making sure that my commit message is right and the change I did actually makes sense. I was so anxious and nervous there, I remember. I closed my pull request and reopened it a couple of times. But after a while, I finally submitted it. And look at it, I just added a single brace to the documentation. I didn't even change the source code itself. That's a single line of code that made me super excited to be on the contributors list of one of the major web frameworks. Later on, this contribution opened the door for Coalizer, different tools for source code visualization, Angular dev tools, and so much more. All right, let us look at the next myth. Nobody cares about my contributions. Well, people do care. If you look at the issue tracker of TensorFlow, for example, they have a special label for community contributions. They realize that they can get some support from the community while providing folks mentorship and guidelines. If your favorite project doesn't merge your contribution immediately, try again. If it doesn't work again, well, find a new project and continue contributing until it eventually works. Angular, for example, has over 2,400 contributors, and we appreciate all the time that they have invested into helping us make the project better. Maintainers care about the time you have donated to improving their projects. The next myth is that I'm not good enough, and people will laugh at my code. Well, let me tell you something. If someone laughs at your code, they don't deserve your attention. Everyone starts somewhere, and if a project maintainer does not act respectfully for any reason, I just can't contribute to a different project. There is an excellent talk from Google I/O 2009 called Myth of the Genius Programmer. It's just a wonderful presentation where two Googlers talk about the imposter syndrome and how it holds off creating a collaborative environment. I watched that talk when I was at university and it completely changed my perspective. I would very strongly recommend you to have a look at it. And finally, I'll be doing work for free. That's the last myth that we're going to look at. Well, yeah, there is a risk that you'll be doing work for free, especially if you're doing mundane tasks where you're not learning anything new. You're probably wasting your time this way. So don't work, just play. Find problems that excite you. Get mentorship from project maintainers by helping them build better software and grow as an engineer and have impact to the world. Open source provides this very collaborative environment across the world. Different people are motivated by different aspects of open source. Some folks are more competitive and want their work to be very visible. Others are motivated by their work being used. Well, it doesn't matter what moves you forward as soon as you're enjoying it, improving your skills and making a difference for others. On Twitter, I asked my followers, how did open source impact your lives? I got plenty of great responses. Matt from Canada said that contributing to open source software let him become self-employed. By contributing to Angular, Trunk from Singapore realized how solid understanding of TypeScript he actually has. He met a lot of incredible people and received a ton of validation and opportunities. Open source gave profession to Alexander, as well as a thriving community. Debbie says that open source helped her stand out of the crowd. It also helped her get accepted as a speaker at different conferences. Santosh from India says that contributing to open source changed his life by letting him find better job opportunities and overall made his life better. Xavi benefited from open source by learning and becoming a better programmer. I hope I was able to show you what impact open source can have on your personal life and on the life of others. It can provide you with an equal opportunity wherever you are, as soon as you have access to internet and a computer. It enables you to make an impact while collaborating with some of the best software engineers in the industry. Thank you very much for listening today. Now go and make a difference with your first pull request. I'll see you online.
Hello.
Tech bro. All right. It's nice. This sounds really nice. Sorry, who can sing here? If you know you have a good voice, raise up your hand. Don't worry. We're going to have music. We'll have music. So, so the next session is going to be, don't worry, it won't be virtual. It's going to be physical. You will see the person live and direct. We're going to be having Dominion Aero. I don't like to. So Dominion is going to be taking us on my OSCA story. That is my open source Africa story. I think this one is going to be interesting because it's not going to be a lot of technical stuff, just someone telling you their story, what they've experienced in this festival. Essentially, for those of you coming for the first time, I think you should listen carefully to this, be attentive, and so Domino, can we have you? Give it up for Domino's! Domino's.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be doing this, and yeah, I think we'll just go straight ahead. All right, let me see. Does it work? Okay, it works. Good enough. So, stories are incredibly powerful. I want you to think about it for a second. Stories shape generations. Stories are able to start revolutions. And stories always change the perception of the masses. There's a common saying, you can forget what somebody said to you. You can even forget what they did. Maybe not soon if you have bad belly, but you can forget. But you never ever forget how they made you feel. And that's the goal of this talk. I want my short session to make you feel something. I want you to feel possibilities when you get up and you look at the people around you in this room today. Which is why I am going to be telling you my Oscar Fest story. I want to explain to you how contributing to this event 2 years ago changed the trajectory of my career. But before we do that, I'm fine. Jesus.
Are you single?
Please, no, I'm okay. All right then, all right. I want to share this story with you, but before I do, let's just talk a bit more about me because it's me. My name is Dominion Aero. The full name is Dominion Osemi Ekpamen Aero Mosele. So I shortened it to Dominion Aero, and now I just use Dom because I think it's just simpler. So I am currently a member of the Game Awards feature class of 2021. It's a group of 50 people around the world who represents the bright, bold, and inclusive future of gaming around the world. I'm blushing. I was also a mentor for Google Game Up Africa last year. I'm currently a game design intern at a Berlin-based studio called Twin Drums and an incoming community and events manager at Carryfirst. Now, Carryfirst is Africa's biggest mobile games publisher with games like SpongeBob under our belt, so it's cool. All right, then. So the reason why I think this talk is important is because this talk is going to help a lot of you transition from point A to point B. Now, if you're at point A, you are probably new or early in tech, you want maybe a great paying job, you want to build exciting products, and you're a Man U fan. Sorry. Now, I'm going to help you move from
please,
point A.
we've come to the end of this. You can be going. What do you mean?
I'm going to help you move from point A over to point B, where you're now more advanced in tech, right? You have maybe have a great paying job, you're building an exciting product, and you're a Chelsea fan. Wait. If you think I'm lying, okay, Samson is not here. Samson God is a Chelsea fan. Prosper Otemuyiwa is a Chelsea fan. Listen, if you're like Shedrack and you're a Man U fan, I'm sorry for your life. All right, then. All right, so let's go ahead with this. So back to my story. You see, In 2019 and 2018 and earlier part of 2020, I was a visual and brand designer, right? So posters, logo, flyers, Urgent 2K, you know this stuff. No, I'm not saying brand designers do that. They are really great brand designers. I know that, my friends. I just mean some of us were suffering. And I was doing visual design, and I came across Samson Godi and Piso Jamie, and they told me about an event, OSCA Fest, where they were going to be hosting people to talk about open source. At that time, I had zero idea what open source was. I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what a pull request was. I had never used GitHub. So I didn't know all of these things, but the one thing I knew how to do was push pixels around. So I was able to design and design quite well. So I said, you know what, even though I don't know all these things, I am still going to contribute with the little I have. Which brings me to my first point. When it comes to changing the trajectory of your career, all you have is literally all you need. I'm going to say this very clearly because I'm not trying to motivate you like Aspire to Maguire. I'm going to make it very simple for you to understand. See, a lot of you here don't try to talk online or interact as much because you feel you don't have enough information, correct? You feel there are people who know much more about what you're doing and you make a post while they're making 16 post Twitter threads. But the thing is, there are people who are literally growing their careers, growing their quote-unquote fan base and income from ignorance. They are monetizing their learning process. So they come online and talk about how much they don't know. And they're using that to gain traction because they realize something, comrade, that all you have is literally all you need. The skills you have right now, start with it. It works. You can grow from there. Please keep this in your head. So back to my story. We started attending OSCA Fest, and I decided to go for this event called Sustain. Now, if you want to know a bit more about Sustain, there's this thing called the breakout session, where we have groups of people sit around and talk about things for 15 minutes, and then we keep switching and you go to different sessions. And since I didn't know as much about open source, and I didn't know much of the people there, and I really wanted to meet them, the keynote speakers and all, I decided I was going to do the biggest ITK I've ever done in my life. If you don't know what ITK means, it means I too know. Right? So whenever we go for these breakout sessions, I'm going to go there and I'm going to talk, I'm going to interact, ask questions, write things down, jotting things down for no reason whatsoever, but always being interactive because I wanted to start by making connections with the people I wanted to meet on a platonic level first, right? And that brings me to my second point. You see, you don't have to wait to shine in the big things. For a lot of you, I'm sure you spent 2 hours praying that when you come to this event, Adora is going to walk past, and then when she walks past, she will trip on a wire, and then you will catch her, and then you will bring her up, and then she'll now say, oh, thank you, what's your name? You know what? I'm giving you a job in Microsoft right now. That is not going to happen, okay? Leave that for the Indian movies. The truth is that you are probably going to start off by doing the smaller things. You're probably going to make lasting contributions by doing the little things you can do, and don't be scared to do them. A lot of workshops have happened. How many times have you actually tried to interact in these workshops? Like, talk to people, be open, ask questions, and do things. You don't need to start with one-on-one connections. You can start on a more platonic level, and it's very, very important. So back to my story again. You see, after doing this, I then decided to make connections with most of these people that were at the last event, and I want to show you a picture of how it's really changed my career. To give you a perspective, during the pandemic, I decided to host this event called Unduzi. Now, Unduzi was an event whereby we gathered people around Africa who had zero idea what the gaming industry looked like, and we decided to educate them on what the industry actually looked like for a full week. Now, I didn't know as many people, but because of OSCA Fest, I knew these ones, and let me show you what they could do. So Amanda Kasari, she was a keynote speaker at the last OSCA Fest, and I talked to her about the event I was hosting, and she said, you know what, I can't speak because I don't know much, but here's what I'll do. I'll connect you to a man called Mark Mandel. Mark Mandel is someone who is currently building a multiplayer online server for multiplayer games, and he works on Google's gaming open source. And I was able to meet this guy for nothing. She just connected me to him. Mark Mandel got somebody else called Stephen Ann, who is a game programmer at Google. So picture this. I'm a 20-year-old hosting an event with folks from Google coming to speak at it for literally doing nothing. Ariel Fox apparently was a game designer before she transitioned into more UX-related things and accessibility. And she went as far as sending books, textbooks from the UK, for me to read on game design. She went as far as organizing meetings between me and other game designers and game programmers that she knows, simply because we had a conversation at OSCA Fest. Anyedi has probably been one of the biggest influences in my life. If you know Anyedi, you know how ruthless and pragmatic he is. He wants to get things done and just simply get them done. And Anyedi went as far as speaking at the event and even connecting me to other people. Same thing with Samson, speaking at the event. Then I can't overstate the the impact that Perry has had on my life. This is somebody that has reviewed applications I've made. Someone who has told me, you know what, don't apply for this job, or take this job, or if I don't take that one, do this, and consistently plugs me into things that I should be participating in. All because I decided to actively contribute to OSCA Fest 20. That may be your story next time. So now that you see this, I understand that a lot of you are starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, right? And you feel, you know, this isn't something you can do. It seems too much. I want you to remember something in my third point. Listen, nobody knows the silent genius. I want you to remember that. Because see, I don't care how smart you are. If you're quiet about it, people wouldn't know. But when you're open about what you do, whether you are ignorant or you are full of knowledge, but at least you are open and you are talking, people are going to listen to you. There was a time on Twitter where I changed my handle to Nigerian game designer. And I did that for a long time, not because I thought it was a cool name. I did it because I wanted to deliberately get people to know me. Right? Now it's just dumb, but that shows you why it is always important to put yourself out there. And now that I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, you're now thinking, once this session is done, I am walking straight to Karen, Eddie, and Adora, and Kelvin. I'm telling them, listen, I'm the next big thing. Talk to me. Listen, calm down, because stop trying to always miss the successful people or those that you think are successful. Sometimes the most amazing people are around you right now, okay? Folks like Isaac Zara, listen, at last OSCA Fest, Zara was Zara. But he's such an amazing person right now. He's one of my closest friends. But we didn't become friends when he was the Zara he is today. So don't always try to do that. I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I hope you remember this every single day of your life. See, everybody has two lives, but the second one begins when they are awakened to the realization that they only have one. The day you remember you have one life and nobody is making it out of planet Earth alive, you're going to do better things. So finally, please just remember this because, it's a lightning talk. I'm sorry about that. But these are a few things you can do just so that whenever you walk up to people after this session or you want to talk to somebody and you want to interact with them, you are not being overly expressive or pushing yourself. Please don't be random. Know who you want to meet. Respect their space. If I'm coming up to a session, give me time. If I'm doing something, give me that time. Prepare in your head. Know what interests them. They are on LinkedIn. They write things. And also, try to understand what possible connections you have with them before you walk up to speak with them. And you are not real estate. Stop trying to sell yourself. Don't talk too much. Get them to also talk and interact with you because that's when they will probably want to build meaningful relationships with you. So I hope this has interested you.
Kunaka.
And thank you very much for listening.
He brought the fire. He brought the fire. Please put your hands together again for Dom. How many of you were inspired by that? Okay. How many of you will take meaningful action? According to what he said. Some people are waving their hands. How many people? Where are the hands I just saw? Okay. You're going to put yourself out there. Or you come outside. Put your hands together for her. She's going to just, in 1 minute, tell us about herself and what she does. And she's going to invite you to connect with her.
All right, then. Okay, hello, everybody. My name is Ore Rowaye, and I'm the CEO and founder of First RC Digital Marketing Limited. So what we do is that we strategically position startups. We basically work with them to establish a brand. So why am I doing this? Majorly because I'm also into tech, and I realized that you can create a product, but we do sell. So if you're ready to connect to me, I'm here.
Please put your hands together for her. She just said market. Oscar, go and collect your money. All right. That was actually a great one. Thank you so much, Dom. Okay, so we're going to go to the next lightning talk. We want to make it a little bit fast. And this talk is going to be about monetizing technical writing. How many of you here are technical writers? Or you want to become a technical writer? How many of you from the audience with attendee badge? Okay. Okay, so this is actually for you, because I'm sure that most people have been, writing and putting things out there, and the most important thing, as Dom said, is, putting the word out there again and again. So this person, Nelson Michael, is going to be talking about how to put the words that you write, yes, out there, and how to also make money from it. Who wants to make money from what they're doing? Okay. Who wants to make more money from what they're doing? Okay. All right, so what he said was that we've all benefited in some way from a writer's effort to put complex concepts into context for us developers. Yes, but how do writers benefit from this? In this talk, he'll be vividly highlighting the ways to make money off technical writing, which is a great source of passive or primary income. Nelson Michael is a front-end developer at Chain Consults. He is also a freelance technical writer at LogRocket, CSS Tricks, and Bird Eats Bug. He's also the GDSC co-lead at Federal University Local You're not putting your hands together. Please put your hands together again for Nelson.
Woo. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? So this is my first time speaking. I'm super excited to be here. I hope everybody... All right. So put your hands together for the OSCA team for organizing such a wonderful event. I mean, they're doing so much. Okay. So I'll be talking about monetizing technical writing. Before I go forward, let me say a little bit about myself. All right, so this is Nelson. I'm a front-end developer at Chain Consults. We do a lot of contracting job for web applications, mobile applications, and a whole lot for companies. I'm also a freelance technical writer at LogRocket, CSS Tricks, and Bird Eats Bugs. And I'm a GDSC co-lead at Federal University Local. And fun fact, I think that Kanye West is a crazy genius.
You got that right. You got that right.
All right, so this is what we'll cover here today. A primer on technical writing, how to get paid as a technical writer, and then who pays technical writers. So let's get to the money. All right, so this is just a brief definition of what technical writing is. So technical writing is using your specific skill sets or research skills to create textual content that instructs, directs, or explains a particular subject for your readers. So I don't know what happened to my slides. Okay. So this is a benefit of technical writing. Technical writing is a great source of passive and primary income. So imagine, you are learning how to code. You've not gotten a job yet, and you need to make money in some type of way to like maybe pay for courses, pay for internet. Technical writing is like a very good source of that. So great source of passive income, great source of primary income, and it solidifies your knowledge on whatever you're learning. I mean, technical writing is great. It also improves your written communications. This is too much talk. Let me just... So how to get paid as a technical writer? Put yourself out there. That's very important. Create value. So how do you put yourself out there? You can start blogging. I mean, there are a lot of platforms that allow you to blog for free. You can just connect your URL to it. Platforms like Hashnode, Medium, Dev.to, wonderful platforms. Create good content. Contributing to open source is another way to put yourself out there. Join a community. The communities like Write the Docs, Hashnode as well, and build your portfolio. I mean, then create value. How do you create value? Effective communication. When you write, be clear and concise with your writing. So readers will not have to like be too disturbed when reading your articles. Be sympathetic when you write. Don't write like you're talking to pros all the time. Just be simplistic when you write. Write as humanly as possible as well. That's a great way to create value for yourself. I know we're waiting for this. So how do you get paid as a technical writer? Who pays technical writers? Sorry. So full-time roles is a great way to get paid as a technical writer. Freelancing, also open source. So I did, this is just a research I did for how much technical writers get paid for full-time roles. So I don't want to talk too much on this because this is a little bit explanatory, but let me go to freelancing. So freelance technical writers make anywhere around $300 to $1,500 a month. It's just really dependent on your schedule, and that's a lot of money if you're learning how to code and you don't really have the resources. So for open source, okay, let me go back to this. So there are a lot of platforms that pay freelance technical writers. Platforms like LogRocket, CSS Tricks, Beditbox. All you have to do is just show them that you've been writing for a while, show them your content, and that's it. I'll go back to that and explain that. Okay. So open source. Open source is another great way to get paid as a technical writer. Platforms like Outreachy, Google System of Docs, they pay technical writers well. Then for freelancing, I did the math. I know this makes me sound like I'm a genius. So in Naira, you can make anywhere around 190 to 600K per month for technical writing. And then for CDs, 2.5 for shillings, around 50K to 170K as a technical writer. And that's a lot of money. That could help you get somewhere before you get your job. So this is you can scan this QR code for a list of platforms that pay technical writers. Shall I hold on? Okay. All right. There's also one platform I think you guys should check out. They're fairly new, Beditbox, and they pay really well. So you guys should check that out as well.
Sorry,
Okay.
See what I'm doing because of you guys.
All right. Should I go to the next one? Can I move now? All right. So this is another list you can check out as well. Okay. Are we done scanning? So can I move on now? All right. All right, so these are some awesome technical writers you can check out. They do a lot of technical writing, and then you can learn a lot from them and see how you can excel yourself as a technical writer. So I'm going to be signing off with this quote, one of my favorite quotes. No man ever waited clay and left it and expected bricks by fortune and chance. So it takes hard work and consistency, and hopefully you get there. So thank you for having me, guys.
A round of applause. Thank you very much for that, Nelson. Please give Nelson a round of applause. Okay. So without further ado, we can just go right into the next.
Wait. So we understand what have happened in the last two talks, yes? Who can tell me what is similar in both of them? Okay. Who can tell me something else that is? How to make money. Another person. What's similar? Putting yourself out there. Put your hands together for him. They say the future is open. You too be open. Talk about what you're doing. Tell somebody beside you, this is what I'm doing. This is what I do. My name is Kelvin Umechuku. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bumper. Thank you. Thank you.
Show off. Show off.
Yes. Oh, yeah, tell me what you do, Adora.
I'm a baby girl for life.
Me and Adora is going to fight, actually. They said some things yesterday, but we'll come back to that. Now, we're going to go to a keynote session. Yes? Damlari, do you know why this keynote is important? Do you know why it's very important?
You tell me. You tell me.
It closes some of the conversations that have happened in the last two talks. Do you know the title?
Closing the door.
How can you close what is open? How can you close what is open? Say it again. Read it very well.
We've been opening doors this morning. Let's close some.
No, we're not closing any door today. We are opening doors with open source. And coming all the way from the US, just for this talk. Just for this. Somebody say, just for this talk. Just for this talk.
Yes, I want to read this. I've volunteered to read this.
Let him read it. Just listen to him. If somebody's pressing phone beside you,
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
hit the phone on the ground. It's not me that said it.
Please listen carefully, because I'm not going to say this twice. Anjana suffers from a chronic case of curiosity, which led her from philosophy to English, teaching to computational linguistics,
Accent
to
gone
software development. You know that you are introducing Americana. As a senior developer advocate at Usara, these days, she mostly codes and teaches from her home base in San Francisco. San Francisco. But she will always be a traveler at Earth. That's a globe, what do you call them? A globetrotter? Nerd out with her about functional program. I don't know how Americans write their
because
English.
it's my phone. You can't
Their
really
English
see it
is,
very well.
God.
You can't really see it. I'm
Please
going
read
to read
it.
it now with the right accent. Anjana suffers from a chronic case of curiosity, which led her from philosophy to English teaching, to computational linguistics to software development. As a software developer advocate at Hasura, these days, she mostly codes and teaches from her home base in San Francisco, but she'll always be a traveler at heart. Net her with her. If you don't know what, oh God, calm down. Net out with her.
It has happened.
Net out. What that means is damn like I don't understand. You know the school you went to. Net.
Speak Igbo.
So now one quarter. Net out with her with functional programming and JavaScript. Ask her about the Record Center and outreachy, which Nelson just mentioned here, and definitely invite her to your karaoke party. She's going to do karaoke for us before she leaves. So please put your hands together for Anjana.
Give it up, give it up! Give it up!
OSCA Fest! Hoppa! Hoppa now! Woo! What up, Lagos? How's everybody doing? Wait, I'm sorry? How you doing?
We are good!
Can we take a moment to give a huge shout out to the amazing talks from yesterday and from this morning? Yeah, make some noise. It has been so great being here. I'm so excited to be back for my second time in Lagos, to be attending OSCA Fest for my first time. So amazing. And I think we have all been talking about this the whole time, but what I want to talk with you about today is opening doors with open source. So I'm Anjana Vakil. I am a developer advocate at a company called Hasura, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. And I am just really excited to be with a huge room full of people excited about open source because of the opportunities it creates, right? Because the future is opening doors, creating new opportunities, right? Building new possibilities. We've been talking a lot about your career, and that's one level I want to talk about building possibilities for. I also want to talk about how you can build new opportunities with open source for your company, whether you work there or you founded a company like so many people did here. And also for the community, which is what it's all about, right? We're here for the community. We're here building a community and creating new opportunities. So I want to talk with you about building opportunities and opening doors for these three levels. So first of all, for your career, and we've been talking about this quite a lot already. There have been some amazing talks about how people have built careers with open source, some of the opportunities that you can follow to do similar things and create new possibilities for yourself. And I think we should do like a little show of hands right now. Raise your hand if you work professionally in the field of tech, in whatever role, any role. Okay, lots of hands, quite a few hands. Okay, now keep your hand up, or raise it again, if you started out with open source software before you worked professionally. A few hands, right? So my hand is up because I definitely did. A little bit about me. So like I said, I'm a developer advocate. And before I was a developer advocate, and also at the same time, am a software engineer. So I got into developer advocacy through software engineering. But as in the amazing dramatic reading of my bio, as you heard, I, at one point, was not in tech at all. I was an English teacher many years ago. I was not doing computers at all for my job. So what happened in the middle there? Like, how did I get a foot in the door in the tech industry? Because it is hard, right? It is challenging to get started in the tech industry. It's competitive, there's a lot of question marks, you're not really sure where to begin. So how did it work for me? Well, in about 2015, I discovered this amazing community called the Recurse Center. Has anybody heard of the Recurse Center? A couple people? Cool, awesome. So if you haven't heard of the Recurse Center, you can read all about it at recurse.com. But this is a programming community based in New York City that runs a programming retreat. It's like a writer's retreat where you go away to work on your craft, but it's for coders, it's for programming. And when you're there, they used to do it in person in New York City, now it's all online and people from all over the world are there. When you're there, you work on open source technology. So you're maybe contributing to open source, you're maybe reading about open source, you're maybe learning from open source tools. And while I was there at the Recurse Center, I found out about an amazing program I think we all know by this point, outreachy. Woo! Who was at the outreachy talk yesterday from Love and yeah. And everyone, so thank you so much, ladies, for doing the outreachy overview yesterday. So I don't have to talk too much about it because you heard about it. If you didn't see the talk, go back and watch it. And so in 2016, I did an internship through Outreachy at Mozilla. So this is me and the Firefox in 2016. Aren't we so cute? Okay, and so while I was there, I had my first professional experience in the software industry. And from there, I was able to get my first real full-time job in the software industry. And then I got another, and here we are today. And I am able to have the amazing opportunity to be here talking to all of you, nerding out about functional programming or JavaScript or open source or whatever else. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. It wasn't all perfect as a journey, right? Because nobody has 100% success all the time. Raise your hand if you've been 100% successful every day of your life. Nobody, right? Raise your hand if you've had some failures. I have. Exactly, we all have, yeah. But that's okay because sometimes that is where the doors open as well, right? And so what I experienced with Outreachy is that actually the first time in 2015 I applied to Outreachy, I did not get in. I was rejected. But that was a really good learning experience for me because even though I got rejected, I learned how to use GitHub, how to engage with contributors on GitHub in discussions, in pull requests, right? How to use IRC. Anybody use IRC? Chat client? Yeah. I learned how to use it. It was very intimidating for me at the time. I learned how to communicate with open source project maintainers. I learned how to ask better questions. I learned how to articulate what I was contributing better. And so even though I failed in my first attempt, 6 months later, because Outreachy does 2 rounds of internships per year, 6 months later, I tried again, and I was accepted because of all the experience I had gained through my failure the first time. And so I wrote a lot about that on my very old blog at the time. So you can check out my blog on my Vakila GitHub.io site. I wrote an article, Outreachy, What, How, Why. So if you're curious about Outreachy or similar programs like Google Summer of Code, Season of Docs, or just getting started in open source in general, check out a little bit about my experience. I wrote more about my journey there and some other experiences I had during my internship. And so, in addition to keeping in mind that failure can be your friend, I want to underscore a point that several of the speakers have already made today and yesterday, which is that if you want doors to open for you, it's really important for you to be open with yourself, right? For you to be doing things in the open, having conversations, building connections, talking about what you're interested in, asking questions, being out there, putting yourself out there. And one amazing way to open yourself up, especially if you're starting out in your tech career, is by learning in public. So, one of the most amazing speakers, oh no, the title is too small, but Gift Egwenu. Y'all know Gift? Yeah, shout out to Gift. Gift, we miss you. So Gift gave an amazing talk at Codeland Conf last year. You can find it on the YouTube channel for Code Newbie at Codeland, about learning in public and about how when you open up your experiences, your challenges, the things you're struggling to understand, the aha moments that you have, the small learning gains that you make, when you do that in public and make it open, whether you're writing blog posts, or you're giving talks, or you're making YouTube videos, or you're having conversations with people in the hallway, whatever it is, opening yourself up and learning in public is an amazing accelerator for opening those doors for your career. So go check out Gift's talk, it's really great, and she also gives some great resources there, you can go read more. Okay, so now let's say you've successfully got your foot in the door of the tech industry, and now you're working at a company, or you founded your own company. Now it's time to open some doors for your company, which means making money, am I right? Business is business. So, what about the impact of open source at work? Raise your hand if you write open source software as part of your job. Anybody? Yes? Okay, we got a couple of hands, Okay, what about if you use open source software at work? A lot more hands, right? So if your company, even if they aren't producing their own open source projects, odds are that they are using open source projects. It's hard to find the exact statistic, but I've read that anywhere from about 85 to 95% of businesses rely on open source as part of their software work. So that means that there is a market in open source, right? Open source can make money. So there are so many success stories of open source focused companies like Red Hat, like MongoDB, Elastic, MuleSoft, getting acquired or going public for billions and billions and billions of dollars. $1 billion, anyway. And they have been so successful all based on open source technology. It used to be a couple decades ago, people thought there was no money in it. That has been proven false, right? So how does this work? How do companies make money off of open source? Well, when development happens on an open source project, that means that it's out there. Other developers can use it. They can try it out. They don't have to purchase free trials or subscriptions or anything like that. So they try it out and they love it, right? Developers start to really drive adoption. They love these libraries. They love the tools, the open source frameworks, languages, all kinds of stuff. And as developers adopt more and more of these technologies, that means the companies that they work at also adopt those technologies, and so it starts to make money for the businesses that are using or creating, supporting these open source projects. But the thing is, if we just stop there, and if we just say, okay, we're at my company, we're using open source, and it's making us money, and great, that sort of puts a ceiling on the doors that we can open, on the opportunities that a company can have. Whereas, if we invest back into those open source projects, into the communities that are building those open source tools, maintaining those open source tools, then we get this positive feedback effect right? Where we have better tools, we have more adoption, we have more opportunities for the business, which can then reinvest in the tools, and more adoption and more opportunities, and so on and so forth. So it creates this like upward spiral of opportunity. And so that's what my company, the company I work for, Hasura, we build an open source product. So Hasura lets you put instant GraphQL APIs on top of your data. So you give it a database, and it says, poof, auto-magically, here is a GraphQL API you can use to query and mutate that data. And so that is all driven by an open source project called the Hasura GraphQL engine. You can find it on GitHub, and there's a lot of other open source projects in Hasura's GitHub repository. And so this means that there's a whole bunch of people who can open issues, file bugs, make contributions, right? And contribute back to this open source tool, which developers can also go use for free. And then that tool, because it is a GraphQL engine, is based on another open source technology, GraphQL, and it's written in another open source technology, the programming language Haskell, functional programming language. Anybody use GraphQL in the audience? Yes? Okay, a few hands. What about Haskell? Any Haskell developers out there? Yes! All right. So these are two really big open source projects that are kind of fundamental to building useful tools like this GraphQL engine that Hasura builds. And so that means that it is to Hasura's advantage, and it is really important for us as a company to reinvest in those communities. So there are a couple of blog posts, several blog posts on the Hasura.io blog that you can read more about if you're curious about how they support and sponsor open source development on projects like GraphQL and Haskell, because as those systems get better, as those tools get more efficient, as they get fewer bugs, as they have more features, that means that Hasura as a company can do more, right? And by reinvesting, again, we get that positive feedback loop. But of course, as we all know, open source does not stop with code, right? I've been talking a lot about the coding side of things, the code base, but there is so much more to open source, right? Like documentation. Who was at Tejas' talk yesterday? Yeah? About documentation changing the game? Yes, so awesome. So similarly to documentation, which again we open source in GitHub, Hasura also has some really great free and open source tutorials on topics like GraphQL, databases, front-end clients for GraphQL, things like that. And so these are all in GitHub repositories. And so they're right on the site. Sorry, the font is a bit small, but basically they are all totally free and open source, and they're maintained by the community. So we have like 150 plus contributors contributing back to this documentation and to these learning tutorials, which means they get better for everybody. So I don't know if you can see this, but anytime you're reading a course on Hasura's Learn site, so for example, this is the Intro to GraphQL course, which you can find at hasura.io/learn, you'll see a little button. It's hard to read, but it says Edit on GitHub. That means that if you're reading the tutorial, and just like Tejas showed us yesterday, there's something that doesn't make sense, or something that could be explained better, or a typo, or something that's just plain wrong, or a question you have, you can just instantly click through to GitHub, file an issue, make a pull request, fix that typo, ask that question. And that means that the community can keep making the learning experience better for the next people who come along and take the course. So it's like, once you've gone through the door, you can hold it open for other people to come through behind you. And that means that we get this, again, a positive feedback cycle where you can't really see this, but the tutorials have been translated by the community from English, the original language they were written into other languages like Chinese, Japanese, and any other languages the community wants to contribute translations to. So that means even more people can learn. And that means even more people can help contribute to making the tutorials better, or maybe adding new tutorials. And this is where that positive feedback cycle happens, because now we're not just talking about a company pushing out documentation and pushing out learning materials in a one-directional flow. We're talking about a community building things together, right? And that's really where the galaxy brain insight comes in, right? Because it's cool to build software. It's even cooler, right, to build open source software, right? But the really expanding thing that helps explode the growth of the software industry and the opportunities that companies have in that space is building a community around that software and an ecosystem around that software. Because then you have the positive feedback effect, right? Which is why we're here, because it's all about the community, right? So that is the last point I want to leave us with today. How can we open more doors for the community, for each other, for our other friends that aren't in the community yet? How can we create more opportunities for the whole community? Has anybody read the GitHub Octaverse reports, the state of the Octaverse? A few people? Okay, if you are interested in open source and you use GitHub, or even if you don't use GitHub, you should check out octaverse.github.com. They put out this really great report based on a survey they do of open source developers on GitHub. And so in this year, in 2021's report, they found, first of all, there are 73 million, over 73 million developers just on GitHub. And we know there's more open source than there is on GitHub, right? So that's just a small portion. 73 million developers. And, exciting statistic, 16 million of those are new users in 2021. What does that mean? That means almost 20%, about 20%, or like 1 in 5 developers on GitHub, developers, documentarians, technical writers, designers, everybody involved in open source, 1 in 5 is new. That's amazing. That means the community is exploding, right? Which means we have even more new people in the community, which means, as we've been talking about here and at the Sustain event, was anybody at Sustain the other day? Yes, okay, awesome. So we're talking about supporting sustainable communities. So GitHub has a special sub-report on supporting sustainable communities. And they call out a few key points that you should keep in mind if you want to support sustainable communities in open source. So let's take a look at a few of those. So the first thing they point out is that mentorship is a community asset in both open source and inside of companies. So it's all about having a person there, right? Those connections, like Dom was saying, having a person you can ask questions, you can go to for advice, you can just complain to when your code's not compiling, right? It's all about having someone who you can ask one-on-one. That really helps communities thrive. So we've already talked about outreachy, which you can read more about at outreachy.org. So outreachy internships are mentored. My mentor, Maya Friedrichowski, amazing mentor. She was so helpful to me. She was an outreachy intern herself before. She had a mentor also at Mozilla. And so it's like this beautiful pass it forward chain, right? You can become a mentor as well as be a mentee. So if you're interested in doing an outreachy internship, or if you run an open source project and you're interested in sponsoring, and whether it's through an initiative like that, or maybe it's just in your local community, maybe it's at a meetup, maybe it's someone you met here that you're DMing with on Twitter, whatever it is, if you can put yourself out there and say, hey, let's talk one-on-one, let's help each other out, that is what it takes for this community to become sustainable and have that explosive growth, and for us all to have better open source software to work with. So you can check out some of those resources, and let's move on to the next point, which is that in order for communities to be sustainable, we have to have trust and respect, because those contribute to a strong culture. Trust and respect within the community is essential. Has anybody heard of the Contributor Covenant? Like maybe one hand or two? Okay, so the Contributor Covenant is a really cool document. It's essentially a document that's open source itself that you can use in your open source project or community to set a code of conduct for everyone who is contributing or being part of that community. So that means it's like an agreement that we all make to be respectful of each other, to be welcoming to new people, to be taking respectful and trusting approach when we're interacting with each other, so that we're not saying things like, ugh, you don't belong here, or ugh, that PR was terrible. Ugh. No, we want to be respectful. We want to make sure that we're mindful of the fact that people come from all different perspectives and have all different experiences, and that everyone should be welcome. So if you run an open source project, I would strongly recommend checking out contributorcovenant.org and taking a look at this document. It's something you can include in your repository so that everyone knows what the guidelines are for creating a trusting, respectful environment, so that everyone feels safe to ask questions and make contributions that make the project better. And similarly, the third point we're going to talk about, the last point I want to talk about from the GitHub Octoverse report, is that safe and welcoming communities attract newcomers and encourage more contributions. So if you want your project to be successful, or if there's a project out there that you contribute to that you want to be more successful, it's important to make that community and that project safe and welcoming to newcomers. Because we saw 1 in 5 people on GitHub is new. That's amazing. Let's make them feel welcome. So I just found out through Twitter about a really cool document called the Open Gates Checklist, which is a checklist of things you can keep in mind. It's intended for dev content creators, but I think it definitely applies to open source maintainers and anybody who puts anything out there into the world of open source, that is intended to stop gatekeeping. So instead of keeping people out and saying, you're not experienced enough for this, you don't know enough Haskell for this, you don't know how to fix the Linux kernel, or you don't belong here because of where you're from, or how you look, or how you talk, or any of that. We don't want to do any of that anymore. There's no point. So this is a nice checklist that you can read through to make sure that you're using inclusive language, that you're thinking about accessibility, that you're thinking about different perspectives. Because that's the thing, gatekeeping in open source, we are done with it, right? So what I want us to think about going forward is not just how we can stop gatekeeping, but how we can take those gates and just destroy them entirely. You know? Let's just take them down. Let's do gate breaking instead of gatekeeping. Because that's what it's all about, and that's why we're here, right? Because we are making this community happen, and thank you so much. Huge round of applause for the organizers of OSCA, Sustain Africa, all the other communities, right? She Code Africa, all the other, One Laptop, the Laptops for Devs, all of these communities these organizers are working so hard to create inclusion and welcoming. And do you feel welcome? I do. Yes, yes. So thank you so much for having me. And please, let's keep on opening those doors for ourselves, for our companies, and most importantly, for each other, right? Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Please put your hands together again for Anjana.
Okay.
I want to know if anybody has a question here. One, I just need two. One, and any other person with a question? Number one, you can come in. If you have a question for Anjana.
Cool.
So yeah, thanks for your story. The story about outreachy is one I can relate with because I applied last year and didn't get in, but I got my acceptance email yesterday. So yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so my question is really about outreachy, to share, well, with others as well, tips on succeeding, because I mean, this is just the first stage. The second stage is making enough contribution. So on succeeding, and also a request to connect with you personally.
Sure,
later.
yes.
Yeah.
Y'all can find me on Twitter, Anjana Vakil. We can connect there. But so my experience at Outreachy, and keep in mind I did this a while ago, so it might be a little bit different now. But my experience was that communication is what it's all about. Instead of sitting at home and being like, I don't really understand what I'm supposed to do, or I don't really know if what I did was good enough, or I'm not sure if there's something I'm forgetting that I didn't know about. Instead of sitting and worrying about it, what I learned was that I had to just communicate, talk to my mentor, talk to my team, and say, hey, I don't completely understand what I need to do here. Or, hey, can you give me feedback on this PR I just put up? Can you give me feedback on how quickly I'm moving, on how I'm writing this code, whatever it is, right? So I think the number one thing I would recommend for anybody doing any kind of internship like that, outreachy or summer of code or anything, is don't be shy of communicating with your mentor, with the team. Be respectful. Be respectful of their time. Be respectful of the fact that they have a lot going on in their job. But remember that they are there to support you. And you have questions, you have concerns, communicate them. Don't sit and worry by yourself and not be sure, because the more time that passes with you just worrying, that's like wasted time. You could have been learning something or creating something even better. So keep the communication going. Over-communicate if necessary. That would be my number one advice. Yeah. Thanks so much. All right, I'll turn it back to the amazing hosts.
Please put your hands together again for Anjana.
Thank you.
Awesome. That guy at the back is not putting his hands together. Please put your hands together again for Anjana. I'm watching you. Put your hands together again. Anjana, did you hear what I said about Anjana? So was I correct? Did she bring the fire? Awesome, awesome. So there's a lot of things that we've packed today for you. I'm even seeing that Tejas is here now. He was supposed to leave today. But do you know what happened? Do you know what happened? It's too good. He had to come back. He said, I don't want this flight no more. I'm not going anymore. Somebody said Nigeria happened, but I'm not going to comment on that. All right. This guy is looking calm. He's not normally calm. Oh. You think that he's one of the calm ones. He's the ones that cause problems on Twitter. You know. What did he do? Ha! What did he do? TC. It's code.
What's TC? Technical content.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question now before I call on the next speaker. Because before I call on the next speaker, that person took him all the... Let me not start now. Why do you think it's important for us to do open source? Why? I just need answers. One person. Two people. Why do you think open source is important? If you did not respond, you see, 3 speakers have come here to speak about it. Yes?
You can come forward. Come forward. Man on native. Is that Jalabia? You now, Blue. Mr. Blue. Yes. Oh, that's a shirt. Huh.
So why is it important? We need like 5 people. They said be open, no?
Come.
They said it's be open. Maybe it's that you come outside here, somebody just see you and say, I love this guy.
Women in tech.
Maybe it's somebody say, this guy speaks well. You should come and organize my next event. Come outside. Just stand up. I need just 5 people.
Right,
why
ladies.
is it important? Okay. I need more ladies. Okay.
Women in tech. Rise
Okay.
up.
That's 3. 3 ladies, 3 guys.
This is
Okay,
just
that's fine.
catwalking. You know, this is your catwalking.
All right. All right.
Confidence woman.
So we're just going to ask, how many people are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Come on.
Oh yeah, come.
see
He
another
looked at me
person.
very disappointed. He was like, I was trying to come. Don't worry. All right, so just 1 word, 2 words, just let's know, why is it important for us to do open source? Just say your name so that people can connect with you.
Femi Adebayo is my name. Femi Adebayo.
Femi Adebayo. All right.
That one major reason.
Sorry, excuse me. Femi Adebayo.
Adebayo.
Okay, go on. Please don't mess.
Go ahead.
is just to make application more accessible to everybody.
More accessibility. Please put your hands together for him.
Put your hands together for Mr.
All
Femi
right, next
Adebayo.
person.
Yeah, so I think open source is important.
Your name?
Sorry. My name is Kendi Adeleke. So I think open source is important because...
Go ahead.
Are you 30 VG? Go on.
So yeah, it's important for the community and it helps onboard more people. So, and can I expand on that?
He said,
No, can I expand on that? Just
okay, just you
something
have
extra.
So
30
you can
seconds.
expand on that.
30 seconds. Don't mind him.
Yeah. So I think something interesting she showed was how
That Anjana shared.
yes.
Okay,
was
go
how
ahead.
20% of like new GitHub users were like of the total Octoverse report, and I think that's quite interesting because GitHub has provided this platform to make people get into tech that way. So I think that's quite interesting.
Thank you. Please put your hands together for him. I will translate.
Brother,
I will translate for Damilare.
in a bit. You get me?
I will translate for him. What he's trying to say is that GitHub, no, open
Wait,
source.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Do you
Are you mad,
do
fam?
Do you understand?
Are you
what he-
mad, fam?
Do you understand what he actually said?
Bro, I just finished a whole season of Top Boy.
Okay.
In a bit.
Those type of people. Please go
Hi
ahead.
everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Mitchell.
Hi,
and-
Mitchell.
Hi. Okay.
Micha is overwhelmed with love.
Okay. I'm a front-end developer, and currently I'm learning blockchain solidity.
Going after the money.
Yeah, you can connect with me on Twitter. I'm Mitchell.
Michelle, why is open source important? What's going on?
Allow her. She's getting there.
Yeah, okay. You can connect with me on Twitter. My
Please.
Twitter handle is Mitchell Michi _ Z.
Thank you.
Mitchell Michi _ Z. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of the important things of contributing to open source is it actually opens opportunity for you because based on the talk from most of the developers and those who are the speakers and all of that, you will notice that has really helped them open opportunities for them. By the time they started contributing to open source, it's helped them in their skills, helped them to build up.
Please, a round of applause for Michelle.
Thank you very much.
A round of applause. Thank you. Michelle, look at this stage. We will not call you again. You can go. Give it to another person.
She took being open very seriously. She took it personally. All right.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Start with the question. Answering the question.
Yeah. So I think simply open source helps us to democratize software development.
Wait.
A founder in the making.
Wait. I think open source helps us democratize. Did you see the glass? Thank you so much. What's the name?
Yeah, my name is Ismail Nuruddin. I'm a software engineer, and you can find me on Twitter at 10xnuru. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ismail.
A round of applause.
Hello, good morning. My name is Mas Nachi.
Hi.
I'm a software engineer in training. But apart from that, we run a computer store at Manor of Technology. So where we sell laptops and gadgets.
Will you not answer my question?
Of course, I
Oh yeah, answer the question now.
Okay.
Okay, I see what's going on here. I see it. Okay, oh yeah, let's calm down. Let's calm down. Okay, let's allow her to finish.
So for me, open source, is a platform. As someone that, came in through medical field to technology, Like, I didn't know about things like this. But when a friend told me about open source, it was a door. Like, she said, breaking the
Please clap for her, clap for her.
Put your hands together.
Use applause to usher out to us.
I want to remember something.
Give it to me.
You know, she said, sometimes we got to break the door. So, open source gave me that platform.
Awesome.
A round of applause for her. Actually,
Please put your hands together.
hey, I use God to beg you.
Wait.
Don't advertise.
No, let's ask. Do you have market to sell? Who has market to sell here? You have market to sell? No. Okay.
You say you are selling durag.
All right. So let's.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good morning. My name is Khadija Bakari. I'm a UI UX designer. Okay. We are currently building Talent Scouts. Open source breeds inclusivity for people and helps build your profile.
Good one. Thank you. Good one.
What are you building? Let's just be on front now. What are you building?
Just tell us.
Nothing. Good. Oh yeah.
Okay, hi. My name is Kido Solomon. I work with.
You don't forget.
I'm not building anything.
I think in order not to sound like I'm selling, so I'm an employee, a DevOps engineer. All right, so I work with a telecommunications company. So I wish I had known about open source before now. As a Nigerian, I think from all the things the speakers have said since yesterday, and of course this is my first time anyway, open source sounds like a shortcut to success in tech. Yeah. So,
why are you clapping?
I'm wondering.
Open source and shortcuts.
Yeah. And Nigerians, we love shortcuts. I mean, we're not going to deny that.
This guy.
Please, let this man. We cannot be insulting us here. You are insulting us.
This guy.
Apologies. Okay, so I just want to say that I wish I had known.
It's from Ghana.
I wish I had been part of an open source community like this. Perhaps that would have shortened my learning curve. And open source seems to be something about you teaching, and we all know that when you teach, you also learn at the same time. So a lot of time, I think mentoring enables even you, the mentor, to really grow and be more grounded in what you do. So
awesome. Please put your hands together for him. He does not mean the shortcuts. He meant that the community would have been a factor to help him grow faster. Yes? A mentor, a community.
Say you are changing the meaning of shortcuts.
Hello, my name is Cyril.
Cyril.
Or CY.
Okay, CY. Yeah,
I'm a junior backend developer for an NGO and a university student. Now, the importance of open source for me is it makes growth geometrically or exponentially. As I'll say, okay, we did this just like classicals. We did a research or a term paper on Linux operating system. And what I understood from that term paper was most of our achievement, which we are from Web 1 or Web 2.0, most of our achievement would have still been like 58 backward if the first, the Linux system or the GNU licensing wasn't available. Because everybody would want a closed system and be growing arithmetic, just be growing linearly straight. But due to open source, we were able to expand and achieve evolution at a faster rate.
What are you studying in school?
Computer science.
Computer science. Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for him. He took us to the history
of the greatest Nigerian student, of the greatest Bagba, of the greatest Gbogbo, of the greatest Shiwa, of the greatest.
I can't relate. I went to OAU and we don't do such. All right, all right, all right. Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for everyone that came out here, including the one that sold market. Okay. All right. So we want to call the next speaker. It's a keynote speech. Please, let's have some decorum. Let's have some decorum in the hall, please.
This is another expert. Is it export or import?
It's an expert.
Spot. All the way from America.
Do you want to read this?
Are you sure you not hijack it again?
Don't use the American.
All right, I will not use the American. So yeah, we're bringing Chris. So Chris is an open source technologist with a passion for building a better world through open collaboration. He's currently a CTO at the Linux Foundation, focused on developer relations and running the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF. Give it up for Chris!
Please put your hand, keep clapping as it comes up. Who has heard of Linux? Linux.
You know what Linux is?
I'm asking them. Yeah. Who has heard of Cloud Native?
Yeah, Cloud Native. It's about 5 people.
Who has heard of Twitter? Uh-huh.
More Twitter.
At Twitter, he actually created the open source program. He led the open source efforts. This bio, let me read it again. This guy did shortcuts. He's going to stand here, and please, you just be putting your hands together as I speak. Chris Anisik is an open source executive and engineer with a passion for building a better world through open collaboration. Oh yeah, hold on. When I say it, then you clap so that people will hear it. He's currently a CTO at the Linux Foundation, focused on developer relations and running the Open Container Initiative, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF. Furthermore, there's a furthermore there. He's a partner at Capital Factory where he focuses on mentoring, advising, and investing in open source and infrastructure-focused startups. For many years, he actually served on the Eclipse Foundation's board of directors, representing the committer community and the Java community process, JCP, executive committee. In a previous life, he bootstrapped a consulting company, made many mistakes, lead and hacked on many Eclipse.org and Linux-related projects. He said, Odogu, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. Please put your hands together again for him.
Thank you for the warm intro and basically reading off my LinkedIn bio. So, all good. I'm super happy to be here. I got in, yesterday, so I'm a little bit jet lagged, but with all the energy in this room, and after a couple cups of coffee this morning, I'm definitely awake. I think one of the most amazing things about being involved in open source for 25 plus years now is just meeting people all over the world. It's truly been a blessing for me, and hearing Anjana and other people talk about how they got start. Like I got my start by contributing to Linux 20 plus years ago. I got my first job there, so it's just an amazing feeling to see everyone here sharing the same sentiments. I'm moving a little bit forward here, but super glad to be here, and now I'm feeling a little bit older since I've been here for 25 plus years working in open source, and there's a whole new generation of folks coming on, but. When Samson reached out, it's like, hey, come speak to Open Source Africa. I was supposed to be here 2 years ago. Obviously, COVID, pandemic kind of put a damper on a lot of our lives, in general. And, my initial idea was to talk a little bit about the growth of Kubernetes at the time and CNCF. And so this time, based on, I think a lot of folks are a little bit new sometimes. People obviously here in this room don't know what Cloud Native is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of, where Cloud Native came from, a little bit of a history, and more importantly, kind of how to get involved, a variety of programs that we have for folks to get involved, not only through just code contributions, but, documentation and internships and a bunch of other things. So thank you again for having me here. So as you're aware, there's some kind of boring data here. Like, obviously, the world has changed with COVID. Everyone has to learn how to work remote. I don't know about all y'all, but like I'm in 30 Slacks now, 20 Discords. I saw my, doing doctor appointments virtually. We had to go shift our office environments. So all of us had to kind of shift our work. And what's happened behind the scenes is a lot of companies out there, whether it's a Zoom of the world, or it's your bank, or it's your local company, all have had to adapt their infrastructure to support the growth of online services. And cloud native technology, which CNCF hosts, has kind of been been shepherding a lot of that and enabling that kind of technologically growth to let these companies expand as much as they needed to. So all this basically shows is the pandemic that we've lived through the last 2 years has basically forced us to all change the way we work. And a lot of that growth has been enabled by open source and cloud native technology. So how many people actually have heard of Kubernetes or have used Kubernetes here? I'll go for 20% of the audience. So, so we do constant polls throughout the community out here, but we think there are about 6.87 million cloud native developers out there, and those are basically people that are writing cloud native applications, whether they're using Kubernetes or some other cloud orchestration framework. A lot of people get their first kind of experience with this whole ecosystem with containers. Containers, anyone create a Docker container, run a Docker container? Yes, maybe? Okay, it's about the same. So, there's millions and millions of folks out there using this technology now to kind of power their ecosystems. There's even now a documentary that we produced where if you actually truly need an intro to how things kind of came together, I recommend searching Kubernetes documentary on YouTube. It was a little bit interesting when this project came together because they filmed it during the pandemic, which was a little bit nerve-wracking, but highly recommend. It's about 30 minutes of your time. It'll give you a good story of how things kind of started and put everything together. So, cloud native software, what exactly is it? Well, it's running basically every major company behind the scenes, whether you're Apple or Zendesk, banks, all have kind of modernized their infrastructure. I'm a huge runner. Adidas, is running cloud native Kubernetes infrastructure to power, the store, recommendation systems, and so on. So this software, just like open source, has become pervasive throughout, the industry, and you may not even realize this. I talk to a lot of people, my parents aren't super technical, but, your iPhone, your Android, your TV, people are even trying to put Kubernetes on airplanes. There's just Linux and Kubernetes, it's just completely everywhere and pervasive throughout, our lives, and it's something for us to kind of, think about, as we kind of get involved in open source. So, in terms of the actual definition of, what is cloud native software? We actually have a formal definition within the CNCF that we've kind of put together, but essentially it's all about empowering organization to run scalable applications in a modern way. There's a variety of specific technology that kind of adheres to this cloud native definition. It could be a container, maybe it's a service mesh, immutable infrastructure. The kind of key characteristics of cloud native systems are they're loosely coupled components. If you hear a lot of people talking about cloud native, like breaking things into little pieces, I think this is a good practice anyway when you're developing software, versus doing, old school monolithic things. You kind of break things into little services, stitch them together, and make them resilient and so on. It's just more manageable to do so. The CNCF, which is the organization that I helped start a little over 6 years ago, essentially is a host of, these projects, this community, and so on, that kind of bring all this, technology and basically democratize, software that, internet scale companies have been using to scale. Before I started this organization, I spent about 5 years working at a company called Twitter, where we were basically building out our own kind of infrastructure. And at that time, oddly, there was still a lot of open source stuff out there, but the Googles of the world, the Facebooks, the Netflix of the world, they weren't as forthcoming of sharing this software. And so the CNCF was truly born to basically democratize the software that internet scale companies were using to scale, so everyone could do it. It's not only just a FANG company or an internet scale. Anyone over the world could go scale as much as these organizations have. So there's a definition, and that's kind of how the CNCF works. So today, one of the larger open source foundations out there, if you're familiar, there's a lot of them. There's Apache Foundation, Eclipse Foundation, CNCF. We host about 120 of these projects. They're all different little bits of Lego pieces, right? It makes it a little bit confusing and complicated because, you know, you could get Kubernetes, which is great, but generally you also need something to like monitor your services. You need something to potentially do logging. So our whole motto is provide the Lego open source projects where people all over the world could build them and stitch them together to run scalable infrastructure. That's basically our job and role, you know, to the community. And so one thing we've also pointed out, I was actually talking to Nadir on the car. This unfortunately looks terrible, but yeah, that does not look as good. But essentially, you know, if you look at like the highest velocity open source projects out there, you have things like, you know, if you have Linux, Kubernetes, you have some of the .NET ecosystem, Homebrew. And so, you know, if you kind of look at this, a lot of our projects fall on the higher end things where you have, you know, 4,000, 5,000, you know, authors, you know, pushing code all the time. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of movement, a lot of contribution from different companies all over the world. To kind of make this space a little bit more approachable, you know, one of the complaints we've gotten is, you know, I'm kind of new, I don't understand how this stuff works. Well, we built something called the Cloud Native Landscape, which is this awesome static site powered by Netlify and all this good stuff. So if you have your phone or laptop in front of you and you go to l.cncf.io, you could have an overview of our whole ecosystem and also kind of just in general of what else is out there, you know, in terms of software. So if you're, you know, starting in the infrastructure space and you're very new to, you know, cloud native software and open source infrastructure software, check out the landscape. It's a beautiful static site that we've kind of built that lets you kind of browse and find things, because I think some of the hard parts of getting started in, you know, I would say lower level infrastructure stuff, whether it's Linux or Kubernetes, is just like having a mental mind map of where you could put things and how to get started. So this is a useful tool that we provide basically for, you know, the world to learn a little bit more about, you know, cloud native technology. So, you know, when I started this talk, I was going to talk a little bit about kind of, you know, the history of cloud native, how we kind of got here, a little bit about the future directions, and then I think more importantly for all the folks in this audience is, you know, how do I get involved, you know, in the community? Where can I go to learn? And I'll try to do it based on, you know, different skill levels. I was going to do some demos, but, you know, obviously it's a little bit hard when I don't have my laptop, so bear with me right now. So let's do a history lesson, because now I feel old. I've been involved in open source 25 plus years. You know, when I started my career, there were these things called mainframes and, you know, these kind of monolithic, beastly machines. And if you kind of look at the history of kind of, let's call it computing, is back in the day, we had these large, big, you know, mainframes, you know, non-virtualized hardware where you would go run workloads on, right? They were very closed systems. I don't know if some people know the company Sun, but, you know, they kind of pioneered some of this, you know, they're one of the more kind of pioneers in this space. Eventually, people started to virtualize some of these things. So you had VMs came around. So VMware pioneered this. You had infrastructure as a service. You know, AWS, obviously most people probably now, you know, play with AWS these days in their lives. But back in the day, you know, leasing and renting compute was not really, you know, a thing. You kind of had to set it up yourself. PaaSes came around. And then essentially what eventually happened when we shifted from kind of this old model to this kind of new model is things kind of became more open. You know, you had less closed systems, more open source, more democratization of things. We went from monolithic big, you know, apps running on like bare metal to more, you know, let's call it microservices based, smaller types package things running on clouds. And we've shifted from basically physical hardware to virtualized to now containerized. A lot of, you know, stuff behind the scenes, even if you're using things like Lambda or all this stuff, a lot of stuff behind the scenes is usually running some type of containerized infrastructure to enable that experience for you. So I think the overall history, if you kind of look last 20, 25 years, has gone from closed ecosystems to open, you know, open source ecosystems like CNCF, Apache, and so on, from monolithic large systems to microservices, and from more virtualized to containerized systems. That's kind of, you know, the whole, you know, history of, if you kind of look at cloud native, you know, computing. So, you know, the way I look at it is, you know, things have become more open and more malleable over time. The other thing people kind of talk about is like, well, okay, great, you have you stopped at 2018, but it's 2022 now, or 2020 if you don't count the last 2 years, like I unfortunately don't want to some days. But so where are we essentially headed? So like I've mentioned, back in the day, things were very tightly coupled, right? And eventually people started to containerize things and break apart. There are some new exciting technologies that are happening where, I'll make this prediction here where, I think we're going to enter a third kind of wave of computing. And what I mean here is we went from essentially virtualized VMs to containers to eventually WebAssembly, which is kind of a unique technology that came from our browser, friends, which essentially think of it as a lightweight, runtime that kind of is like a container runtime, but a little bit different. So I think in the future, you're going to see a little bit more, smaller baked apps running on kind of WebAssembly sandbox environments. If you don't know anything about WebAssembly now, I highly recommend learning. It's a great kind of entry point. I think there'll be a lot of career opportunities there. A lot of companies I know are hiring outside the Kubernetes folks that they all want. A lot of people are looking at WebAssembly. It's definitely kind of the future direction, I think, of computing, so you should definitely take a look at it. Do it. So, other kind of future things, we have a technical body in the CNCF. Essentially, it's a board of folks that kind of are responsible for the overall technical direction for all of our projects. A lot of interesting trends happening. So, I was an old school Linux person, and, back in the day, you used to work on Linux in a lab, and eventually some crazy people wanted to start putting Linux in cars, in phones, right? So we have Android everywhere, which is essentially Linux. People are doing the same thing for Kubernetes. Kubernetes is now being extended to meet end user unique needs. So, a lot of telcos now are putting Kubernetes in like little radio towers, right? Edge devices. So what's actually happening is the same thing that happened with Linux. People will take a piece of open source software and maybe rip it apart or do something to make it work in their particular use cases. Same thing is happening for Kubernetes because at the end of the day, a lot of software is just orchestrating workloads, and if it already works for the data center in many other cases, why can't I go extend it for other environments like the edge and so on? A couple other things that I won't dive into too much because I'd rather talk about how to get involved in the community is, I think it would be useful to share this is, I think a lot of people are familiar, are you familiar with DevOps, right? You've heard of DevOps? Yes, yes, a little bit, maybe. All right, so there's this other new thing that, I'm a little bit passionate about that's called FinOps, which is a little bit different. So when you start using the cloud or any online-based service, you could basically use as many resources as you want, right? So I don't know how many people have had the experience where I've left stuff on AWS and GCP running that has resulted in large cloud bills, unfortunately. You just forget about it, right? And so I think what's happened is it's just easy, right? We just don't care. Developers just don't even think about cost really, right? Because you're either working for a company and you don't have to care about this, or you just have like a little project. So FinOps is kind of a new discipline which is trying to combine developers and also financial operation folks and business analysts. It's basically the people inside that are handling cloud bills, which sadly is mostly done in like spreadsheets. Like it's more manual. So the idea here is to combine both kind of developer and financial operations into one. And so you'll see this as a common thing. Like there's a lot of jobs now that, if you could just Google FinOps jobs, you'll see this thing kind of bubbling up. But I would definitely take time to look at that because there's this whole field that is burgeoning around just like kind of DevOps, did in the last 10 years around just making sense of different cloud bills and kind of unifying service, predicting cloud bills. It's a great area to get involved in the early days from my perspective. I'm not going to talk about all this other stuff. It's a little chaos engineering gray. You got to go test your crazy system to make sure they're resilient. So let's talk about how to get involved in cloud native for folks. So, when I started my career, I just kind of like, back in the day, we used to have these like little floppy disk things, right? And so that's how I learned Linux. You eventually install it on your computer, you kind of play it around. If you're very new to things, just start with the basics. And sometimes like just terminology, we tend to use words in open source and, companies that are just hard to understand, right? Like if you don't have any understanding of these basic things, whether it's like an API, firewall, whatever, service, pod, it just makes life hard. So glossary, we have a cloud native glossary in CNCF that we've introduced for people to basically learn all these terms. It's being translated into a variety of different languages, and is a great place for everyone to kind of get involved in. Linux, sadly, like, Linux is still everywhere. It's a great technology. I think having some familiarity with the command prompt and just understanding Linux basics is always good. We have a free edX course that we produced at the Linux Foundation with the help of Linus and so on. GitHub, I love my GitHub friends. There's something called lab.github.com. You know, as you're learning Git and all this stuff, I would definitely recommend checking out these kind of online exercises. They're a great place to kind of get started. You know, as you learn Git, you have to learn GitHub. It's a fantastic piece of technology. And then maybe for like some of the maybe the more like nerdier folks who have like a gardening habit, there's this awesome project called GrowLab that's put together that basically, you know, if you have access to a Raspberry Pi and maybe some, you know, into a little bit of gardening, you could basically set up your Raspberry Pi to like automatically monitor your, you know, garden, water, and so on. So to me, it's like, it's an awesome project that's not too hard to kind of, you know, set up. It's well detailed. They have a great community, a great Slack, and so on. But it will basically teach you all the basics of like installing packages, how to manage like, you know, Linux on a Raspberry Pi, and how to do some basic programming. So that's kind of like my first intro to folks is like, don't worry about containers, just learn the basics and start there. Containers. So this is generally the next step, you know, when it comes to kind of embracing the cloud native community. There's a lot of great resources out there. Play with Docker. I think it's play.docker.com. Just very much teaches you the basics of what a container is, how to, you know, build an application, containerize it. I recommend starting there. There's a lot of different great resources out there. There's an amazing woman named Nana who's got this YouTube channel, Tech World, which highly recommend everyone go check out. She just distills things in a great way. But, you know, once you learn a little bit more about Docker and containers, basically prepares you kind of for the next kind of step in cloud native journey. Prometheus. So monitoring is an interesting thing. So generally when you build an application or service or anything, you eventually have to get to a point where you have to observe it. What happens if it starts, you know, failing? How do I kind of restart it? Prometheus is actually an interesting technology that is what we basically call a sister project to Kubernetes. So Kubernetes came from Google's, you know, internal infrastructure, and they had a sister project actually to Kubernetes internally. For them, it was called Borg. Eventually, it became Kubernetes, but they had Borgmon, which was used to monitor all their stuff. Prometheus is inspired by the same thing, and you know, I think, you know, if you're going to start your kind of journey understanding how to monitor applications in a modern way, especially with kind of Prometheus pull-based metrics, totally, you know, necessary, and there's some great resources that kind of get involved. So highly recommend to learn the basics of monitoring infrastructure. So once you get there, I finally recommend people diving into Kubernetes a little bit and learning kind of the basics there. So I mentioned before the edX course. I think the documentary is just a fun thing to kind of just get the concepts. A lot of people tend to use Kubernetes based off cloud-based managed services, right? So if you have access to AWS, they have EKS, GCP has GKE. There's some great lightweight local resources that you can install on your computer, whether it's Docker Desktop or Rancher Desktop, that just makes the whole installation super easy, and I recommend folks experience that way. There's also the amazing Kelsey Hightower who put together this Kubernetes the hard way. If you truly want to get your hands a little bit dirty, I'd recommend that guide, but it is very kind of hard in depth and teaches you kind of the low-level stuff. The other thing that we've recently done in CNCF is we put together, you know, we have a variety of certifications, classes, and they all tend to be focused on advanced individuals. And in the last, I would think, 18 months, we've made a marked shift to produce more introductory things, you know, whether things it's like the glossary, because, you know, a lot of people are new, you know, to open source, new to our ecosystem, and having people just dive into something advanced is just hard. So highly recommend the KCNA that we put together. And then one thing that I'm doing is for everyone that basically has attended OSCA, we're giving basically free, you know, free KCNA, so you go sign up and try it out yourself if you're interested in cloud native technologies. And I'll figure out how to get that. I'll figure out how to get that code to everyone after the talk. And then finally, you know, as you kind of learn this, we have probably one of the more friendlier communities out there. And I think, you know, I think someone said this on stage earlier that like learn by doing, learn by teaching type things. So you learn a ton by contributing. Outreachy, as mentioned before, we've participated in that. It's fantastic. We have LFX mentoring, Summer of Code. There's all these great mentorships program. I think there's some people that have participated in some of these programs in CNCF. So highly recommend just get up, learn how to contribute. These are paid, opportunities. You'll learn a lot. You get paid to do so. And then a lot of people end up finding career opportunities there. I've been a Google Summer of Code mentor for maybe since 2004 or 5 for many projects. So like it's a great experience, overall. The other unique thing that Kubernetes does compared to other projects is they have shadow programs. So what that basically means is if you want to learn how to do release management, or if you want to learn how to do PR work, if you want to learn how to do the build and all this other particular things, you could actually go shadow someone. You actually don't have to do work. You just basically attend meetings, follow someone, and then learn from that experience, and then potentially help become a lead or get involved with that community. So to me, this is an amazing opportunity for this did not exist back in my days, in open source, but highly recommend shadowing individuals. And then, other ways to get involved, host events, meetups, you just don't have to do code. There's so many different ways to contribute out there. So, and we recently held a KCD Africa, so I'm very, very excited about that and would love to see more of those. So final kind of bits about getting involved in the community before I open it up for questions is, every community is going to have different values, different approaches to how they operate. Kubernetes has some distinct values, right? It's all about distribution is better than centralization. We have this mantra that community over company. A lot of folks shift companies, but we're all one community at the end of the day. Automation over process, inclusive is better than inclusive. And then, obviously, evolution better than stagnation. These are just core values that have kind of shaped, the Kubernetes community. And you should, any open source projects you go to, you should kind of go look for something like this. Not everyone has them, but to me, this is generally a good sign if a project kind of is upfront about it. And then finally, kind of, all are welcome, in the CNCF, whether you're contributing code, docs, translations, hosting events. We have so many opportunities to get involved. We have mentorship programs. We have meetups that you could organize. You could attend events. You could go chat with one of our ambassadors. You could go find me in this conference afterwards and ask me any kind of questions or learn through some demos. Please find a way to kind of get involved and learn. There's so many opportunities. The other thing that I want to do, I'll eventually figure out how to get this out to everyone, is we're hosting an event in Spain. We're actually finally gathering. It's nice to see people again after 2 years. We're hosting KubeCon, and we're going to give free registrations for everyone that's attending, OSCA as a way to, get more people involved, which would be awesome. And, we're also going to do 5 scholarships for, folks that could apply to go actually travel to, Spain, bar nothing. So, so hopefully we'll see some of you there. And then kind of finally, I was kind of looking at numbers and with open source, contribution is the currency. It's how to get involved. And one thing that I would like to challenge is I was trying to figure out, where's Nigeria in kind of the overall ranking to CNCF, projects and the communities. So it's number 40 overall amongst all countries. My challenge, to be honest, number 2 in Africa. You're a couple countries, I think, behind South Africa, which is awesome, to be honest. But my challenge is contribute more, get more people involved so you can continue to have more impact. And the one interesting thing is a lot of people are like, why contribute to open source outside of just learning and potentially networking? It's actually good for business. There's research out there from Harvard that basically shows companies that actually contribute get 100% more productive value from the source that they're using versus people that are just free riding and using. So if your boss ever asks you why do you contribute? Go point them to some Harvard research that shows that this is actually a good thing. So we have a great community, and it's been an honor to speak here. Definitely a little bit jet lagged, but...
A round of applause for Chris.
Thanks. You could find me on Twitter at CRA, and I'll eventually figure out how to distribute some of the codes and all that stuff, so anyone that's into OSCA can go contribute to the community.
Chris is going to take 5 minutes of questions, so if you have any question for...
Go.
Okay. Can you come?
Okay, My name is White Gold. I just wanted to know the use cases of Kubernetes on AI projects.
Let me repeat that question so I understand it. So the question was, what is the use case for Kubernetes for AI projects? So I would see the primary use case would be, oh no, sadness. Of course, no one knows how to conference anymore. So I would consider plumbing like, I would consider the main use case is kind of like plumbing. So if you use AI projects, you have like a TensorFlow or PyTorch. Kubernetes would basically be used kind of behind the scenes to help orchestrate a lot of those workloads. There's a lot of integration points between TensorFlow and PyTorch to actually use Kubernetes as the orchestrator to farm out things, whether it's on GPUs or CPUs. So for most people, if you use like a cloud-based service, it's running on Linux, but you may actually not know that. That may not be your exposure point. So for AI developers, it's all about integrating to provide scalability on the AI workloads for the most part. So.
Thank you so much for the talk.
Sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. My question is, it's contributing to open source like Kubernetes.
Yeah.
It's somehow easier for people coming from a back-end kind of perspective. From guys coming from cybersecurity or security perspective, or ops perspective, you deploy on servers, stuff like that. How do you contribute to it? You're like you're more of a user than you can actually code the stuff. So how can you contribute?
So let me repeat the question so I understand it. How do you contribute if you're just a user versus like a developer?
You are coming from an operations kind of background. You don't code so much JavaScript or Python or stuff. So
if you're not like a back-end infrastructure person, you're more of like front-end, how would you contribute? So a lot of these projects have, they have like websites and other things that could use help from front-end development skills. Or you look at Prometheus. Prometheus ships with a UI, right? I think it was originally done in Angular, and I think they're porting it to React now. Like there are avenues where you could actually go use those skills for maybe like the front end aspects of their project or a site, but you're gonna have to go project to project to figure that out. Like Kubernetes itself, most of the stuff is just Go code in the back, but there is a dashboard that ships, and so there are opportunities for you to kind of get involved, at that point. I'm happy to like personally talk to you and find an avenue for sure. So thanks for your question.
All right, a round of applause for Chris.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that wonderful session. I'm tired though. This is my brother. He's here. All right. We are moving forward. We are marching forward. We are people of progress. We don't like to do moonwalk. We do star walk. That means we move forward. Hello. Mr. Kelvin, how you doing?
See, I'm just chill. Nothing much.
You look chill.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Chris' session?
Did he bring the fire? What were people doing? Nada, did you see the fire? He brought it, yeah? Did he bring the fire? The guy is confused. Hey, he said, Jesus. What did I do now? All right. So thank you very much, Chris. Please put your hands together again for Chris. Everybody's bidding for the cloud now, And that's what Cloud Native is all about. And maybe, myself, yes, and my company, we've not necessarily done a lot well. We've not done well enough to be a part of the open source community. We use open source, definitely, but I was touched. Were you touched? I was touched. And now, we'll have to be bidding for open source. We are going to be contributing to open source. Hey, I'm inspired now, and nobody's clapping for me.
Please. this man cannot just be doing show off for us. Let's just continue with the program. The next session.
I've not even come back.
Oh yeah, come. Do you want to do the honor?
Oh yeah, go on.
Please. It's not like I will read biography and you now reread it.
Oh yeah, I'll not reread this one.
Good.
I'll not reread this one.
So the next one, or the next beautiful session we're going to be having is approaching developer relations with an open source community.
Wait. It's by Tech Bro Pro Max. Who is that person? Tech Bro Pro Max. Who is that?
A Man U fan.
Tech Bro Pro Max. Oh yeah, read it.
All right. Please, we are not going to read his bio because you know him. Do you know him? Do you know him? Do you know him? All right. Shadrach is a developer relationship relation.
If I read it now, you will vex.
Please, can we just bring Shadrach to the stage? Please, don't read it. Please, don't read it. Thank you. Please, I know you want to read it. But please, do this for me. Do this for me. Do this for me.
Just for you.
For me.
Okay.
For me.
All right, please put your hands together for Shadrach.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Shadrach Akintayo. You can call me Shedi. So, fun fact.
Shedi,
Yeah.
give me one. Please, why Shedi is giving this talk, yeah? If you are at the back, yes, and you are engaging in some conversations that is unholy, please come forward and sit down. Please, don't distract me. I want to focus. Shadrach, go ahead. But this your clothes might not leave you today.
So, fun fact, the last time I gave an in-person talk was at OSCA Fest in 2020. And the first time I'm giving an in-person talk in 2 years is still at OSCA 2020. And I've given like 20 talks since then. So, thank you, OSCA, for the opportunity. So, let's just get started. Who am I? I'm a developer relations engineer at platform.sh. I don't know if you know Platform, but I'm not here to sell you my company. I previously worked at the Cloud Foundry Foundation, which is a project under the Linux Foundation. Hi, Chris. I'm also the founder of DevRel Community Africa, where we are trying to start up a DevRel community in Africa. I'm a technical writer. I've written for Log Rockets, Container Journals, Machine Magazine, etc. I'm an Auth0 ambassador, and I am part of the organizing team of this festival. So that's that. So this entire talk is basically of my experience at the Cloud Foundry Foundation, where, in the pandemic, doing DevRel in the pandemic is like really, really different. So that's basically what my entire talk is about, my time at Cloud Foundry. So if Cloud Foundry can watch this, shout out to Cloud Foundry, every single person at Cloud Foundry. So basically, developer relations isn't just for corporate companies, yeah? Developer relations is for every community of developers. So if you see the large number of developer relations people we have, most of them are like, corporates, but I'm here to tell you that even you can also do DevRel in, open source as long as developers are there. So what is developer relations? How many of us have heard about developer relations? Like, you've seen it somewhere, I talk about it a lot on my social media, so if you've seen it, yeah, fine, great. So a friend of mine, which is like a very close person to me, and I learned a lot from her, Mary is the director of developer relations at Communda. She said, I really love this definition, like my favorite definition of DevRel. Developer relations is a group of developer advocates, technical community manager, technical ambassadors, documentation writers, trainers, and more who exist basically to empower developers to do their best work. So I exist to empower every single developer to do their best work, depending on what part of the ecosystem I am at. So, this is basically what we are going to talk about today. What is developer relations to the open source software community? So it's basically about caring for developers, educating, giving and collecting feedback from the community. Every single open source software has a community, yes or no? basically every single has a community. So the act of basically collecting, caring for your developers, people that use your software, educating, growing, and collecting feedback from them is how we can, find developer relations in open source communities. And it can come in any form, like, community management, documentation, technical writing, even design. It can come in any form. So why should you care? Why should OSS communities care about developer relations? I'm pretty sure that a couple of us here are like part of one open source community or the other, maybe some Linux Foundation, maybe CNCF, maybe somewhere. Even OSCA is an open source community, yeah? So why should OSS communities care about developer relations? Developers are the core of every open source software community, yes or no? Right? Developers are the one building all this open source software, yes or no? Okay, great. So it creates a sense of empathy toward developers, yeah? So when I am listening to my developers, when the project leaders are listening to developers, it shows that, yeah, there's like a sense of care in that community, which will basically lead to the growth of that community. It empowers developers to be able to utilize the software properly. How many of us can use a software without documentation? No, I give you a software that I built and I say, okay, figure it out. Doesn't work. Oh, you can do it. Okay, just one in like 1 million. So it's very, very important to be able to utilize, to be able to create, content for developers that help them do their best work, that basically use their software. That's the importance of good documentation. It enables collaboration internally and between other communities. So one thing I love about open source communities is the fact that there's collaboration, right? Everybody's working together with each other to basically make that software work, yeah? It could be answering issues in GitHub. It could be sending pull requests to fix a particular part of the software you are using. So it encourages that sense of collaboration between the community members and even externally. You can see somebody in the Kubernetes community, linking up with somebody maybe in the AWS community. I don't know, probably. So that synergy between those two communities is one of the reasons why OSS communities should care about developer relations. I worked in an open source community, a really large open source community, and I've collaborated with like a couple of people that are not even in the Cloud Foundry ecosystem. So developers will feel like their voices are heard. This is like the most important part of every community. Every single person in a community needs to have a voice, right? That community cannot grow if every single person is not heard. It doesn't matter whether it's the maintainer, it doesn't matter if it's someone that's using the software. Every single person in the community needs to have a voice. That's one of the reasons why OSS communities should focus and pay more attention to developer relations. Then it creates a healthier community. Who wants to be part of a toxic community? Okay. Anybody? Okay, nobody. Great. So it creates a healthier community, and this can foster proper collaboration. It can foster proper growth of the project generally. So next up is how do we pay more attention? You've listened to me, right? I've given you reasons. I've given you examples as to why developer communities, open source communities should care about developer relations. So how do we pay more attention to developer relations as an open source community? Okay, so first things first, you need to listen to the community, very important. You need to take your time, listen to what the community members have to say. Very, very important. Feedback is important in every single aspect of life. Not just, tech, not just, design, every single thing. Listening to the community is important because that way you can know where needs was and what you need to fix. The next step is, as an OSS community, you need to understand what you are trying to achieve, right? So the thing about developer relations is that we have to, you have to set goals, right? You cannot just, pump resources into something without seeing results. So we need to figure out, come together as a team and sit down and like, okay, we're trying to start an open source software community. We're trying to focus on developer relations as a community. What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to gain, yeah? So it's very, very important. You need to learn from other OSS communities, getting developer relations right. Vue.js is really, really doing well. I've I'm not a Vue.js person, but of course I'm going to give a shout out to Vue.js community. Really, really, the docs are great. Feedback is implemented fast. So shout out to Evan, you and every single person in the Vue.js team. So the React.js team, I'm a React person, so React is doing the great work, trying to improve their ecosystem, trying to improve every single part of the community. Gatsby, maybe I don't know. Gatsby was doing well at some point, but I don't know. Something happened. I don't know. Sorry. I'm not trying to throw shades at anybody. Sorry. I'm not trying to throw shades, so I'm just going to skip. Drupal. So one of the the communities doing well I've been a part of is Drupal. Drupal is doing so well in terms of collaborating with other communities, in terms of doing proper events, proper documentation. I don't write Drupal, yeah, but the company I joined is a very big sponsor of Drupal. So I've been fortunate to be part of their events and even speak at their events. And to be honest, their open source community, they are really, really doing developer relations the right way. So shout out to Drupal. So developing a strategy is very important, right? You cannot just jump into the fire. You need to know how you jump into the fire. So that was a bad joke. Developing a strategy is very important. You need to know, how do I implement a developer relations process in my open source community. So you can do that by speaking to a community member that have done it before. You can reach out to other communities that have done it, reach out and say, can we have a talk? Can you just tell me something about this? You can read resources online. I have a lot of resources around that. Sorry, I'm not selling myself. So don't be ashamed to fail. So the thing about DevRel is, there's a lot of failure at the early stage. If you should basically be open to failing and reiterating, then trying out various strategies until you find what works for your community. So DevRel, there's no right way to do DevRel. You need to find what works for your community. Yeah, you cannot. So if you are joining a DevRel team, please tell upper management that we are going to be reiterating and experimenting until you find what works for your team, or else you're going to be in a lot of problems. So you need to not be ashamed to fail. Very, very important, because anything can happen. You need to go back to the drawing board, figure out what works for you, learn from other communities, then come back. So keep experimenting till you get it right. Just like I said, you keep reiterating, finding out what works for your community, trying your best to see what works. Experiment as much as possible. That's one of the reasons why I love DevRel. You get the freedom, you get the resources, you get the budget to do anything basically, and it's really, really nice. So keep experimenting until you get it right. So how to build an effective developer relations program in an open source community. So there's no right way to do it, like I said. This is based on my experience. I'm just going to give that disclaimer. Based on my experience working at the Cloud Foundation. So let's get started. So the first thing is, you need to understand the demographic of your community, yeah? You need to understand, the people that are males, females, not gendered folks, people from Africa, people from, you need to be able to track this. You need to know where needs what, because the way DevRel is done in Nigeria will probably be different from the way DevRel is done in Europe, yeah? Very, very different. So you need to understand your demographic, very, very important. You need to provide feedback avenues for folks in your community. Take feedback, very, very important. Helps you, grow your program, helps you fix any loopholes. You need to make your community inclusive and accessible. Yeah, you need to make sure that every single person is. There's nothing like race. There's nothing. Every single person is just one in your community. Accessibility. Make your docs more. Make your documentation more. Screen reader friendly. All those accessibility stuff. Then community reward programs. So one very tricky thing I've seen. One very important thing I've seen is that even though open source is free, yeah, even though open source is, you need to volunteer, but you need to give people an incentive, yeah? You need to give them a reason to want to continue doing more. So rewarding your community is very important, yeah? You need to find your heroes, you need to find your champions and reward them. Very, very important. So great documentation for the technology. Nothing beats great documentation, right? I pick up a software, I build out an entire software system by just reading documentation. That's so cool, yeah? That's the point of having a documentation. So great documentation is important. Then collaborating with other communities, so that every part of the community is moving correctly. More tutorials and use cases, very, very important. You want people to be able to type in a keyword in Google about your software, about your technology, and they see it, right? You don't want people trying to figure out how to use your software themselves. Very important. Now, organizing talks and webinars, this will keep you connected to your community. We have, over the past 2 years where we've had to deal with the pandemic, everybody's inside. We have to do everything virtually. This is one way I've been able to, I was able to keep in touch with the community. So, just to check in with everybody, very important. So how to measure success in an open source community when doing DevRel? Because the thing about DevRel is success is very, very important. You need to know if you're doing it right. Here's what I think. Don't measure success. Don't. Trust me, don't measure success, because this is an open source, right? This is an open source community, right? It's a non-profit. We're not trying to make profit, yeah? But the main thing is that you just need to measure your impacts, growth, and quality of your community instead. You need to see how well your community has grown. You need to know how many people can easily talk about how they are feeling about a particular, incident. That's very, very important. Measuring success is capitalism type of stuff. There's no capitalism in open source. We're trying to not do that. So measure impact, growth, and quality of your community instead. Very, very important. And if your developer relations effort is successful, if you think it's successful, your community members will tell you. Yeah? So this is one of the reasons why you do not need to measure success, right? If you just have a random DM from one of your community members, I'm like, wow, I feel very, very comfortable in this community. I feel like I know every single thing I need to know about this community. That's success there, yeah? That you do not need to have a spreadsheet measuring how many clicks do we have on this, how many people are at our events. No, that's not important in the open source community. I mean, I do that where I work, though. I mean, that's capitalism, man. So, lastly, do not be big on so much success and numbers. Instead, just make sure to provide care for new and existing community members through the educational content and overall developer experience, yeah? Developer experience is very important when using any software. The way I click XYZ in XYZ is, if I do it in a very easy way compared to the other, projects, developer experience here is great. So I'm creating for developers, yeah? We are building stuff for developers. It's very, very important. And thank you for coming to my talk. My name is Shedrack. Follow me on Twitter if you want. Follow me, _black. I share stuff on DevRel and on my website, shade.xyz. And I just want to take a selfie with everybody here one last time. So, I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Shall go show, Sha.
Oh, yeah, come show. Okay, how do we do this? No, take this. Do it. You are taller.
All right.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to my talk. My name is Shedrack Akin.
Please put your hands together for Tech Bro Pro Max. All right. I'm going to take a brief moment. To
My
just...
Oga said I should take his place, so that's why I'm here. Why are you?
Some things are going on here. They've taken away my partner.
I'm your new partner now.
Please, just watch me. I want to get there and come back.
What's going on? I'm so confused right now. I need to see what's written on that bag.
You want to see it?
Oh, wow. Interesting. Hey, babe, I'm open. So that's why he's carrying the bag like that. That's why he's carrying the bag
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Shay, we are talking about open
No,
source,
I'm not open, no. My baby's here.
Shay is open source we're talking about.
It's open source, so. I'm just, you don't want to see, you're not even curious.
I'm looking.
All right.
Nice.
This is a hoodie.
Okay. Okay.
It's open source.
It's open source.
It's OSCA.
Oscar.
This one is a bottle.
Yeah, it's a bottle.
Do you like it?
I love it.
What of the tote bag?
I love it.
There's still more.
Mm.
Just give me a minute.
You're selling markets.
This is something.
Face masks.
Ah, face mask. Okay.
Maxes.
Okay.
Is there dollars inside?
There's focus. 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 Glasses. Okay, it's finished.
I
Why?
thought there would be like a branded open source checkbook inside.
It's there now. Look at it.
It's not inside.
That was what is hidden, the last thing.
Oh.
All right. So the reason why I'm showing you this, yes, the reason why I'm showing this is that the organizer say, let me tell you that during the break, that all these things are available. Oh, you see how I was dangling the pose? Some of you are like, look at him. Look at him. Who is that guy? It's Oscar Fest swag. You're like, why is this guy so swagalicious? Do you see it? Do you see it? You see it? Okay. Who is going to get one? They say it costs money.
Who wants me to buy swag for them? Wow. So when they say who is going to get swag, only some people. Now you have seen Oshofri now, all of you hands
Who wants this one? Okay. Keep your hands up.
So
how many of you have tweeted Oscar Fest 2022?
keep tweeting.
How many of you have tweeted with Tush Geek? I did not see that tweet. Twitter did not mention me. All right, so I'm going to give a few people this. I'll scatter it and give it up. Is it your own? Why are you looking at me like that? She's going to buy your own for you. But this one, I'm giving it out. But I'm just looking out for some tweets, you know. Also, GitHub is actually giving out some swags. If you tweet...
Can see your life.
No, it doesn't break. That was a demo. I was doing product demo. She was thinking that the thing fell. That's demo.
Demo your phone. Demo your phone. Demo your phone. I dare you. For Oscar hoodie, demo your phone.
No. I'm only supposed to demo the swag. This is not part of swag. I would have demoed it. Anyways, so if you tweet with hashtag GitHub X Oscar and Oscar Fest 2022, see as we were silent. They want to type it, say, let me capture this. GitHub, they actually have 45 people are actually going to win something. 45. How has GitHub education helped you? See how she look at me. Which one is that one again? I'm only on GitHub. All right. If you tweet at GitHub Education, hashtag GitHub X Oscar, you can be one of those that wins this. The person with most tweets is going to get something. Actually, 22 people with most tweets are going to get something. And then 18 plus 5, 23 people with the most engaged tweets will also get something.
Okay, nice. Like I said, I meant what I said the first time, which is buying swag for some people. So please be social, because we are very social. Go on social media, tweet about Oscar, use the hashtag OscarFest22, and just please, don't drag the shirt. But you can come and hold my shirt later for your swag. But please, when you're holding my shirt, don't drag it, because I'm very fragile. You understand?
I'm not even going to say much about that. So, actually, who is having a good time today?
And we don't really see hands like that, so I will just collect your jollof rice.
It's only Tejas that I heard his voice. Who is having a good time?
All these SS3 boys at the back, they're not really saying anything. That side. Those people at the back, Kelvin, they're not saying anything. Those people at the back.
See, as a teacher, you know I used to be a teacher. One thing I've learned, just forget them. I'll prove you wrong. It's mean that I'll prove myself wrong. Let me try to prove myself wrong. Please, all of you, don't say anything. It's only those that are at the back. Don't even call them. They cannot hear me now because they are focused on something else. If you're having a good time, say, yeah. Don't talk now. Just listen. You hear that they're not even here with us. If you're having a good time, say, yeah. Some people there are okay. If you're having a good time on this side, say, okay. Okay. Okay, that guy is actually here with us. Wow. Okay. All right, so we're still having a good time, but also trying to learn a lot about open source. And right about now, we're going to call on another speaker. Yes, this is also just a lightning talk before we go to break and have a little bit of games.
Yes, so we'll be calling on our next speaker now. He's Damilola Odujoko of Paystack, and he will be, please clap, thank you. You think it's easy to exit? And he will be talking to us on how to build with Open API spec.
Wait, let me go back from this side.
Thank you very much. Can we appreciate the organizers and the speakers so far? I think they've done a really fantastic job, and the energy here is really contagious. Let's give them a round of applause once again. Okay, so my name is Damilola, and I'm a technical product specialist at Paystack. And yeah, today I'm going to be speaking about building with Open API specification. How many of us have heard about Open API previously? Oh, nice. Okay, so I think I have a lot of audience to convince today. All right, and I'm Damilola, and I don't have a social media account, so bear with me. Okay. So the first thing is, let's get back to developer experience. So I think this is a nice segue into what Shedrack just did. And developer experience basically has to do with everybody has a product you've built. You're probably exposing APIs to everyone to make use of. And it takes a lot for developers to be able to say, oh, this is a new product, I want to try it out. We all know that we're all impatient. We just want to get to it as quickly as possible. So that's basically what developer experience is, like the journey from knowing about a product to integrating that product. So it involves the creation of tools and resources, basically to make your developer experience journey smooth. So generally, you provide resources and tools such as a documentation, an API reference, you provide tutorials, you provide Postman collection or something for people that want to test locally. You provide, you organize webinars, you have libraries that are built by communities or built by your company, and then you have plugins for people that are not really technical but want to just get along with your product as quickly as possible. So with all this, we started to do a form of audit on our developer experience to see how we can do even better. So some of the things we learned are, one, we're focused on text-based content, majorly because we have just our documentation and API reference. We have few tutorials, and this is something that you might also want to do in order to build and improve your developer experience. So the next one was the kind of content we wanted to create. It was we're kind of limited because the kind of ideas we have, the kind of things we wanted to execute, the available resources we had, the tools we had, were kind of too restraining for us. So next one was timely updates to contributors. And one of the things we've really benefited from the open source community are developers that built a lot of libraries and a lot of plugins for us, which we really appreciate. But there's no way for us to give them a timely update on when things change on our end, when our APIs, when we release probably new products, we make changes to our APIs. And lastly, we realized that tools and resources are inseparable. So you need tools to create good resources, and you also need resources, more or less like your content and things, to talk about the tools you have. So with this knowledge, we then decided that we had our calls, we had meetings, and how can we do better? How can we improve better on our developer experience and improve the developer journey? So that's when we, not like we discovered, but yeah, we found out that Open API can help us with this. So what's Open API? So Open API is more or less like your blueprint of your product. So if you have any API, if you are an API-based company, it's more or less like, the tech spec, more or less, or look at this building, it's more or less like the blueprint that maybe an architect creates before they build this kind of building. So that's basically what API is, and it's language agnostic, and it's typically represented in either a JSON or YAML format. So with this knowledge, we're able to see that, OpenAPI specification allows us to like document what we have on our API. So the next thing is, what does it look like? So OpenAPI basically like has this tag, like this is the YAML format, by the way. So it has the OpenAPI key to denote the version. There's a 2-point version, which is popularly called Swagger. So some people might have heard of Swagger. Then we also have the info, which is like talking about like the description of your API. We have the server, which is like the publicly accessible endpoint. And tags are like the collections of your API. The path are like the endpoints themselves. Components are like your schemas, your models, and things like that. Then security are like, the bearer of your username, password, OAuth, and things like that. So next thing is, what does a path structure look like? So if you see this, like you can see that it's human readable, and it's kind of easy like for anyone to understand. So you have the path, you have the parameters that this path can take, you have the tag which shows like order what category this is based on. The summary, we have the operation ID, then we have the responses. And the responses, you can see that it has like a ref on it, which is referencing a model, which is under like the component. So next thing is, what does a model look like? So a model is basically like, just contains the type and the parameters that can go for each endpoint. So having looked at this, one more thing is the editor. So if you see this kind of editor now, it's kind of easy for anyone, first of all, like the engineers internally, to know what's going on the APIs. So with our knowledge of this, we then decided that, what else can we do? How can we make use of this specification, which is more or less like a blueprint? How can we go further with it? So then we realized that, this thing is actually showing like the inner workings of our API. Then it can be used to generate, it can be generated from an already existing code base. So you've built your API, you've built your servers and everything. You could literally like generate it. There are tools or libraries that you could use to generate your OpenAPI spec from your code base. Alternatively, it could also be used to scaffold a code base. So that was one that got our attention that, if you could scaffold a code base, could we use this as a means to like address certain developer issues, developer experience issues we are having? So like this was what led us to discovering the OpenAPI generator. So the OpenAPI generator, it's a Java-based tool that allows us to generate clients, servers, documentation from an OpenAPI specification. So already we have our server. So we're not necessarily interested in what server does. Our APIs are already existing, but we're interested in clients and documentation. So one good thing is we already have our documentation up and running, but there are certain things where you need to update documentation. The product teams are probably shipping faster than the developer experience team can catch up with, or the engineers are probably like, they've shipped the product, probably just went on and didn't probably make announcement to other teams. They didn't communicate to other teams that, we've changed this thing. So with OpenAPI definition, with the OpenAPI spec, we have an OpenAPI generator. We realized that we could do certain things that allows us bridge the gap between different teams. So one of it is clients and generating clients, and the other one is generating documentation. So how do you use OpenAPI generator? One thing is you need your OpenAPI spec. So already, once you've generated your OpenAPI spec from your code base, or you can just write it out manually, you already have like the first step to working with OpenAPI generator. So the next thing is you need language-specific templates. So for the backend engineers here, you realize that most of the things you do on your API are more or less like repetitive. So if you're going to create like a post endpoint will have a request body, which is like the models of what it's going to take in. It's going to have, headers and things like that. For your get endpoint, typically it's just query parameters or nothing at all. So these things are like, they are more or less like, can be templated, more or less. So the last thing you need is an optional config for fine-tuning. So with this, we are able to discover that, we already have our OpenAPI spec already. So let's now talk about what templates look like. So the templates could be in two formats. You could use your mustache, or you could use handlebars. So what does template help you do? So you have post endpoints that are like, I need to get certain parameters. I need to get certain, models to work with this thing. For example, I want to create a customer. I need a customer first name. I need a customer last name. I think those are the parameters. But if I need to fetch a customer, it's different. I probably need just the customer ID or something. These things are like, they're the same across board. So why do we have to go through that process where when creating our clients' libraries, We then start doing, for each file, we create each file, we add each of these things. So that's where templates come into play. So with templates, with Mustache templates, this is something like what it looks like. You can see that it has like a default JavaScript code, which is just like an export function. But those things in the curly braces are what makes templates even better. So those things in the curly braces are going to be used by the OpenAPI generator. Like they're going to be replaced by the OpenAPI generator, picking things from your OpenAPI spec and adding it to this to generate a full code. So basically what this means is that for all the responses you are going to have on your API, this is all you need. Just these 3 lines, just 3 functions, and it's going to add it across board for you. So with this, okay, the next thing is, what does config look like? So your config is more or less like, okay, how should I go about my generation? How should I go about how this thing should be? So the first thing is, you need your OpenAPI spec, of course, which is like the input spec. You need like a templates directory. So like your Mustache file can be as complicated and can be as very simple because you have multiple things you want to focus on. You might want to generate tests automatically. You might want to generate various endpoints. Like there are different things. So you point to the directory where your template is. And the good thing about OpenAPI generator is it comes with default templates. So it's good for you to it's easy for you to just get started with it and you are able to start building client libraries. So next thing is what output directory do you want it to go? And the generator name. In this case, this is TypeScript. And we have various additional property for TypeScript specific, JavaScript specific application, which is the NPM name, the NPM version, and to make sure it makes use of NPM 3+. TypeScript 3+. So with this, when we've gotten our OpenAPI spec already in place, we have our templates in place. The last thing was we've created our config to suit our use case. We realized that we could use just one line of code to generate an entire Node.js client library. So what does this look like? With this line of code, we're able to generate a Node template, a Node library that has everything under it, which is our APIs, our models, the runtime, and we could also scaffold it to create the library which can be deployed to NPM. So with this knowledge, we realize that we can shut down development time considerably, rather than creating dedicating different resources to this language Node. We need this developer to start building our Node clients. We need this developer to build Python. We need this developer to build Java or object-oriented based. We realize that with this, we're able to move faster. So, and once we deployed the application, this is what implementation and usage looks like. All we just have to do is import the library, add our secret key, and with a few lines of code, we're able to already fetch our customer. So, it's more or less what does this mean to you? So, you're trying to build client libraries for your developers. Your developers, not everybody is really tech savvy to start building there are different, especially in JavaScript, there are different libraries that can be used for HTTP requests. These things are repeated. Can you make things easier for you? So, one advantage of using the OpenAPI generator is it makes documentation for internal engineers. It provides documentation for internal engineers. So, engineers, one of the things engineers don't really like is documenting. So, one thing that OpenAPI specification allows you to do, provides for you is documentation for internal engineers. So the next thing is faster development times for library and tools. So with the OpenAPI spec and the OpenAPI generator, you are able to deploy different, you're able to build different libraries within split seconds across all languages. So now your sales team come on board, they're oh, we need to build this library for certain merchants. Do you have to dedicate say 3 months or 2 months, or even say, let's say the developer is really experienced, probably a month to build a client library? No, all you need to do is just have your OpenAPI spec in place, which is a one-off tax, that once you've done it once, you can always reuse it. The next thing is work on your templates, and with that, within a few seconds, it's just run a single line of code, and you're able to generate different client libraries across different languages, which improves development time. The next one is automation. So one thing we are currently exploring now is how, with our OpenAPI specification, we can, from development team, once a product team is done implementing new changes on the API, can we work with our DevOps team to oh, this change has been made. Can we put it on a CI/CD pipeline such that it updates our OpenAPI spec? And the moment that is updated, it triggers a workflow that generates all our libraries across board. So this means immediately a change is made on your API, you can automatically update all your client libraries all at one go. So this is what using this workflow can help you with. The next one is you have API developers. One thing with our developers are they always want to they don't have time to like write long lines of code and things like that. So like with updating all your client library at a go, having the latest features helps them, makes them happy, and like let them keep coming back to use your product. So what's next for us? The first thing is we're going to be open sourcing our Open API spec. I think we did that some weeks back, and we'd like people to like look at it and see how they can also apply it to their companies. We have two formats for our Open API spec. One is particularly for the SDK, so you can look at that to see how you can also generate SDKs for all your libraries. The other one is like a full-fledged specification for like internal teams. Everything has been open source on our open source GitHub repo. The next thing is we're looking to drive community collaboration by working with developers that have already built client libraries for us, such that we can they can update all the existing libraries. So everybody like with the new features we have on our APIs. And we need the help of the community to like work to like make this come to pass. Next thing is we're going to launch our Node and Python library in beta in the coming weeks, so you can see how this works. Like a lot of companies that make use of APIs will really benefit from this, and we'll be able to learn one or two things. Then we're going to generate libraries for our top languages, and finally we're going to explore more use cases for Open API spec and generator. One thing we're thinking of doing is our documentation itself. We want to fully optimize like the process, and with this we are able to do that. So if you have more questions or you want to learn more about this, we're going to be writing like a blog post on it, and you can learn about it. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Damilola. Thank you very much, Damilola, for that wonderful talk. Yes. Who is hungry? Who is hungry? I'm not hungry. Oh. All right, so we're going to twist the game a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We're just going to do a little bit of something so that you guys just got like have a little bit of just small play in it. Yeah. So I'm just trying to calm down to you guys' level. You think I'm trying to calm down and speak Nigerian English. You know what I'm saying now? Yeah? So what we got to do now is we got to bring Didi up here, and we just got to do a little bit of game. Henny. And now I'm saying, in it, in a beat. So, so I'm going to bring up the delectable, the sumptuous, the beautiful, the brilliant, the intelligent. I want to speak like Russia. Do you guys know Russia? Do you know what Russia is doing now? Do you know what Russia is doing now? Should I speak like a Russian? You guys don't like Russia at all. All right. Shit happens. So Didi is going to come up to do some little game here and there for you guys to, unwind. Didi, come now. Yeah, I mean, both of us can be on the stage. A round of applause for the most delectable today. The delectable today. Didi, you're welcome.
Thank you. Can anybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Awesome. So I know when you sit down and listen to information for a long period of time, it can be very exhausting, right? I mean, you're learning, obviously, but then you just want to stand up and maybe stretch or something. So that's what we're going to do in this game. And, okay, let me move my slides. Okay, so my name is Didi Ongasikpo. I know my name can be hard for people to pronounce, so you can just call me Didi or Didi Codes. So this game is titled Meet Someone New. That's why I can see the Meet Someone New game. So quick story, yeah? I feel like there are three types of people at this event. The people who are very shy. Like, you've seen the person you want to meet, and you're like, should I go? Should I not go? Is there anybody like that here? Right? And then you don't end up going. And then there's another set of people, right? They're shy. They're still thinking, should I go? Should I not go? But the difference with those set of people and the first is that they end up going. Do we have anybody like that? Do we? Okay. And then there is the final set of people. They don't have a problem. They walk straight up to the person and like, hello, my name is this. I know you from somewhere. Do we have anybody like that here? Okay, that's fantastic. I want to be like you. So this game is centered around helping everyone to meet somebody new, right? So, okay, here are the rules. You have to meet as many people as possible, and then you find at least 2 people that you have something in common with. Something in common could be you both like yellow. For instance, I like yellow, right? So you and that person love yellow. Or you went to the same school, or you're from the same state. Are you listening to the rules? Okay. And then once you find the 2 people, you take a selfie with those people, yeah? And then you post that selfie on Twitter using the hashtag OscarFest2020. Sorry, 2022, that's 22. So everybody has to do this because at the end of, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, I'm going to randomly select someone to tell me who they've met. So it can be you. And you don't want to hold the mic and not have anything to say. So we're going to use 5 minutes. Please stand up and meet someone you don't know. Someone you don't know. And ensure you find at least 2 people that you have something in common with. So 5 minutes. Meet anybody. You can start with saying, hi, my name is this. What do we have in common?
I'm actually watching those that are not doing it.
Including the speakers and the keynote speakers.
Where do you, I do probably...
Thank you. You're supposed to meet somebody you don't know. Don't meet someone you've spoken to already. Meet somebody you don't know at all. And then start with, hi, my name is this. And then tell me about yourself. Four more minutes remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Ensure you find at least something in common with 2 people. Yeah, I know you. In real life, it's somebody else. It's there. Inside my bag. There's one black bag on that stuff. Four minutes remaining.
So,
2 minutes remaining. 2 minutes remaining. Find 2 people you have something in common with. Take a picture and then post it on Twitter using hashtag OscarFest2022.
I'm Kelvin.
Nice meeting you.
Let's go. I'm trying to go to the exit stop. 2 minutes remaining. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah.
Come on.
It's ready?
I know your face. I'm a community person. I'm from Ekiti State. Yeah, I stay in Port Harcourt, but I school in Ekiti.
Do you like, what's your favorite hobby?
Hobby? I don't know. I don't know if I have a hobby. Well, I sing.
You sing?
Yeah.
I do like singing. I'm not like one of the best speakers. 1 minute remaining. 1 minute remaining. 1 minute remaining.
Yeah.
1 minute remaining. Thank you.
How long?
Well, I think 8 months. I mean, I switched. I used to be in front end anyway, but then I switched to cloud music space. Well, I've always wanted to do like cloud music stuff. Like I think when I used to work at Interswitch, right, I knew that they used to use Kubernetes, and I found it very fascinating. So I knew that was something I wanted to do at some point in my life, but I never really knew when. And then so when this company reached out to me the first time, I was like, I don't know anything about Kubernetes. Then like few months later, they reached out again. I'm like, okay, let me just try it out.
100%. So we work with different product teams. So you have to be like vastly front end, back end, mobile. So that's where we're able to like keep up with. So that's why I need to like keep up with everything with developers. So it's more or less like developer experience. So we need like different experiences. I wish I met you before you joined your meeting. Maybe you would have joined our team.
I'm basically I love that. I mean, you just have to have it. Alright, let me, yes, let me go back. 50 seconds remaining. The wall is so hot. It's hot, right? Please don't forget my bag. I don't want to carry it. Don't take a picture of it. I do. Just in the box. It's right there. I've noticed that sometimes I think if you even hold it, it makes you nervous and like makes you sweat more. I don't understand. 50 seconds remaining. please. Hello, everyone at the back. Please go back to your seats.
Hello. 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 Somebody say hi. Hello. If somebody is still telling you their name by this time, tell them it's okay. It's okay. Motigbo, it's okay. All right, those at the back. Hello.
Please go back to your seats.
All right, thank you very much. I hope that you have met. You didn't meet anybody? Did you meet anybody? How many people? 2. That's fair. That's
Please,
fair.
sponsors at the booth, please let people go back to their seats, please. Hi, we're still waiting for the people at the back.
Didi. Those bouncers that we talked about.
Yes, they are
Where
coming.
are they?
I think, let me speak to someone to bring them over.
Speak to that person now. There are
All
people
right,
at the back. Can you tell them to bring Koboko?
We need something better than Koboko.
What's that?
I don't know. Hello, we're still waiting.
Hello. All right, I'll start calling people now. Bro, go and sit down.
All right, so we're going to get started. Like we mentioned, we'll randomly select. Hi, please, if you're still standing at the back, can you please sit down?
Let me go there. I'm coming.
You're preventing us from going for brunch.
I'm going to take their video and
Okay.
post it on social media. I'm going to call them the people that know it's a year word. Uh-huh.
Please return back to your seat.
Are you part of them? No. Are you part of them? Let me start videoing you people. People that are not.
I hope you can remember the names of the people you met.
I'm videoing them. Don't worry. Look at. This one is doing style. You are doing style. Oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. Sponsors, please allow people to go back to their seats. I'm videoing them. Okay. Look at them. Look at the people that are making noise. I've found them. Look at. I'm posting you on Twitter. I'll tag your company. All right. So please, if you're not a sponsor and you're not in the booth, please just go back to your seat. Thank you very much. I appreciate your candor. Look at her. Look at her. This is the person that is making noise. These are face. Look at him. All right, Didi.
All right, okay. All right, so we're going to get started. I will randomly choose someone, and then when I choose you, you tell me your name, and then talk about the 2 people you met, right? So tell me their name and what you found in common with the person. Did you hear me? Hello? Hello? All right, so everybody that is not saying hi, I'll start with you first. Hello? Okay. So who's going to be the first lucky person? Did someone say me? Okay, you guys are very on point. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Jumoke. Okay, hello everyone, my name is Jumoke. So I met 2 people. One person is Jumoke. Yes. Okay, the other person is Oluwadamilola. The other person is Oluwadamilola. And okay, we are both biochemists in the making, and we both love food. Exactly. So Jumoke is actually Okay, Jumoke is actually a very fun person. She's fun to be with, and what I learned about her is that.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Were you guys laughing because she said fun to be with? She's fun to be with now. Okay, are you done? All right, thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody that wants to go next? Okay.
All right, good afternoon, right? Yeah, so I met about 4 or 5 people, but okay, so actually,
Sorry, can everyone hear him at the back?
so I met about 4 or 5 people. I'm Gideon, senior mobile application developer. So I met about 4 or 5 people, and 3 interest me. Chiamaka, the product designer.
3. Okay.
Yeah. Telore, yeah. Is a front end, right? And
You can't ask them, right? You're
okay,
supposed to know
sorry.
what you have in common.
And also Precious. Then what actually struck me with the 3 I mentioned is they actually want to contribute to because from all we've been learning, there's no special contribution for people, especially abled people.
Okay.
So we didn't really talk about it. I don't know if people will still talk about it.
Yeah.
But we didn't really talk. We skipped that part, right? So he was complaining about.
Okay, sorry. The question was, tell me what you have in common with them.
So the thing is, I was already building something similar,
Oh.
right?
He's
So
marketing himself too.
No. I was
Okay.
building. It's open source actually. So
Open source, awesome.
I was doing something similar, right? Or contributing with someone something similar. So I told them, now, wow, you guys are actually we had this in mind. So I think after now we'll talk about some things together and see how we can actually improve it.
Okay, thank you. Please, let's clap for him, please. Let's clap for him. Okay, so I'm going to give the mic to someone at the back because I feel like you guys are... Okay, I'll give it to you. Yeah, so tell us your name, the person you met, and what you found in common with them. Like, as fast as possible, please.
Okay,
Hi, please, let's listen to him.
Hi everyone. I'm Osinachi Chukujama. I'm a front-end software engineer at... Closer, yeah. Okay, I'm a front-end software engineer at Patricia Technologies. So I met...
Nice.
Okay, I met 3 people. My memory is not that great, so I wrote their names down.
Awesome. Your memory is great in Jesus' name.
Amen. So I met Don Eno. Yeah, he's a game designer.
Okay.
So when I was new in my career, I started out with game development, and I knew how very difficult it is to build games. So I asked him, like, how is he able to do all this? And he said he's involved in all the processes of game design from the start to the end. So it was really, let's say, amazing.
Nice. Okay.
Then I also met a lady, Ene. So she's a community manager and also a front-end developer at the site, right? And I also met a third person.
No, we just need to.
Okay.
What did you have in common with that second person?
The second person, she's a front-end. She does front-end, and I also do front-end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Please, let's clap for him. So when I give you the mic, just tell me your name, the person you met, and what you have in common, please. Thank you. Okay. Hi. So your name, the person you met, and what you have in common. Thank you.
So my memory really isn't great, so I don't remember names. I don't really remember names, but then I met this lady that works at Microsoft, and then the thing we have in common, we are both writers. And then I met this other guy who is a back-end engineer with Node.js and Golang. And then I collected both of them contacts.
You got their contact, fantastic. Please let's clap for him. Did you meet anybody that the thing you had in common is very maybe funny? Why are you saying yes and then hiding after? Okay, I'm going to find you. Please can you pass the mic? Jesus.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. your name and the person you found something in common with.
You said something funny, right?
Yeah, if you found something funny, that's fine.
Okay, my name is Gracious. I met one person.
Okay.
And we have something in common. I realized that our parents both gave birth to us. My mommy gave birth to him. My mommy gave birth to me, his mommy gave birth to him too.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Sorry, can you come again? Sorry, who heard what she said? Is that something in common? I mean, our parents gave birth to all of us, right? I mean, did they drop anybody down from the air? Please give us the mic, thank you. Okay, let me find one of the speakers. Okay. Tejas. Hi, tell us your name, someone you met and what you found in common with them.
Yes, my name is Tejas Kumar or Olakunle Ogonegare Chibuzor. Yes, I have all three names. And I met Anjuma? Chibuza Danjuma, is that right? Okay, that's my new name. Thank you, sir. I met The Great, or Favor, and also To Be Sweet 1987, aka Nomzi here. And the three of us are front-end developers. Or we're front-end developers.
That's nice. All right, thank you. We'll just take two more people. Who wants to go? Okay, let's have someone here.
My name is Tomilayo. I'm a data scientist. Okay. My name is Tomilayo. I'm a data scientist. I met with Ibrahim.
Okay.
So what we have in common is that he's also a data scientist.
Okay.
Yeah. I met with Timo. Okay. It's from
Timo?
Okay, Timothy. Yeah, Timothy.
Okay, his name is actually Timothy.
Yeah,
but some people call them Timo.
Yeah, Timothy. Okay.
Timo. Oh, okay.
It's from, what we have in common is that he's from Ocean State, and I'm from Ocean State. Also, he's a Chelsea fan. I'm also a Chelsea fan.
Chelsea fans, yeah. Is there any Barca fan here? You guys are small, though. Okay, let's have one final person. Okay, that person. Do you want to go? Okay. No? Is there another person that wants to go? Okay. So we'll have this final person and then we'll go for brunch.
Yeah, my name is Masnachi. So I met Amina. So what we have in common is that we have both taught in an organization where we teach children how to code.
Oh,
robotics,
that's so nice.
and
Let's clap for them, please. Okay. All right, thank you very much, everyone. I'll give the mic back to Kelvin and Damilari to continue. So we're going to go for brunch now. We're still going to share jollof rice and other stuffs later, but now we'll just have like something light and then come back for...
Please, can you guys tweet that we are going for brunch? Let people at home know that we dey chop food for here. We are going for brunch, then we'll go for lunch again. Oh yeah, tweet it, thank you. I'll be looking at and I have swag to give.
Damn, lady. Hello? All right.
Please sit down. We are going in batches, please. We're going in batch, so we are going to go from the front.